Speed welcomes you back to live coverage of the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen at the historic Watkins Glen International Circuit in upstate New York. This is round 6 and 7, 6 for the Daytona prototype, 7 for the GT cars in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. Great to have you with us, everyone. Lee Diffie along with Dorsey Schrader and Calvin Fish, and as always, Brian Till and Chris Neville working pit road on a pretty warm day here in New York. Quite windy as well. We've already had a splash of rain, but it came and went very quickly. Just made things a little interesting for a short period of time for the drivers. If you were with us earlier for the first portion of this race, you'll be interested to know what has happened since, and let's bring you up to date right from the very first lap, where there was major drama. Tim George Jr. ran out of brakes on the opening lap and just slammed into the side of Joe Foster in the Hypersport car. Good news, that 40 car is going again. This is Roberto Garcia in the 29, spinning and tagging whilst in reverse, hitting Wolf Hensler, the top qualifying Porsche. There's been some tremendous scraps, including the defending champions. Gainsco, Bob Stallings Racing, came from pit road, working their way all the way through the field to the front of the pack. It's been a good day for Brumos, but look towards the back of the pack. That's Jim Matthews, second in the Daytona Prototype Championship at the moment, and spinning, coming onto the front straight. While leading, David Donahue for Brumos Porsche just slaps the side of Mike Forrest in the PR1 Pontiac. I mentioned rain earlier, here it is, but it was only very brief. And then shortly after pitting, Antonio Garcia goes around in the Chiva Racing cask number 16 Coyote. Then tight here, John Pugh and Gabriel Gardel. The 47 is beached. That would not be the end of their dramas for the day. You'll see that in just a moment. Tight tussle for the lead. Pontiac versus Mazda. Stevenson versus Speed Source, and Robin Liddell put the red, white and blue machine in the lead, but then he spun while in first position, was facing the opposite way up the track, was able to flick spin it and get going again. We've had 6 caution periods in this race on one of the many restarts. Memo Rojas does not get the momentum he needs through turn 1 and just got swamped. Simple as that. I said problems for this team. The 47 Doran machine here, and Richard Antonucci making a cameo appearance and was in trouble. He took a long time to get out of the cockpit, but we're pleased to say that he is safe and well and okay. The car not the same. We get back to racing, and there has been some tremendous scraps like this. The SunTrust number 10 got by Ian James. Ian James wasn't done with though. Watch this, heading up into the inner loop. Ian James said, hey, I may not have been around at the top level as long as you, Michael Valiente, but I can mix it with you. Great racing from the Mike Shank Racing driver. And we bring you up to date right now with the positions. Ian James is still in the lead ahead of Mamo Gidley and Michael Valiente for Wayne Taylor Racing. And then Nick Johnson has taken over from Ricardo Zonta. David Donahue is in the mix. The Mike Shank cars, the 6 and the 60, are having an outstanding day. And we flick to GT, and it is the pole-sitting car of Emil Asentato, Nick Longy and Jeff Siegel in the lead. Nick Longy is behind the wheel right now over the championship leaders, Kelly Collins. We get back to the race live now. This is Ian James over Mamo Gidley, just a car length between them.
It's been a tremendous battle here. Ian James has been at the forefront all day long. Gidley now back in that 77 machine. Remember, he had the lead early on in this race, Dorsey. The Dallara looking very strong. Both cars powered by Ford.
Tell you what, Ian James has put on really quite a drive for himself. He has gone scrapping with all the best. The number 6 car, like you said, Michael Shank Racing has got a good setup here. These 2 cars are handling the racetrack probably the best of any cars out there.
Let's bring you up to date. Here's Chris Neville.
You know, guys, I'm not at all surprised to see the 6 car running up front. These cars were so strong in practice. I was actually thinking the qualify was going to turn out just like the Rolex 24 with the 6 and the 60 up on the front row. So they're just having a great day down here in the Mike Shank pit. Talking to Mike, he said everything has gone great with the 6 car. The 60 also looking strong, but they are going to do a pit stop here in just a little bit. John Pugh going to take one more stint behind the wheel in the 6 car, and then Ian James is going to finish out the race. So everything going, a nice smooth race for that car. Everything looking good. These guys looking for a good, strong finish. How's everything going down to 77, Brian?
Kevin Doran says, hey, we're just out there driving, but when you watch the cars, they're doing more than driving. Memo Gidley is on it. And the great thing is this car's been fast all weekend long. Brad Yeager, with experience here in the Indy Light Series, also doing his part. If they can get Memo Gidley in for that last hour and a half, 2 hours, this car may find victory lane. Yet, what again for Kevin Doran? It is tight up front.
It just underscores what teamwork is all about in sports car racing. It's not down to an individual. It is truly a team effort from the team owner, manager, crew chief, the engineers, the mechanics, and then, of course, the guys who are in the cockpit. And that's been a great team effort from Kevin Doran and his men. So too Mike Shank. Ford is third in the Daytona prototype manufacturer standings at the moment. Lexus leads the way. So if these two teams can stay up there, this will be a very productive day for the Blue Oval.
Here we see Ian James. He's having to defend just a little bit. Gidley looking very racy here. Both these guys have about 25 laps on this stint. We've been seeing the mid-30 range, so probably within about the next 8 to 10 laps, these guys would need fuel.
Behind them, Michael Valiente maintains third. Nick Johnson, David Donahue, Mark Patterson, who has been outstanding today. Mark Wilkins is still in the mix. Terry Borchella in the Spirit of Daytona Porsche Coyote. That's another strong run from that car, and it has not run since March at Homestead, Dorsey. So that's good. They're gradually making their way.
That is really good to doing that good. Michael Valiente in the 10 SunTrust car back there is gaining ground on these two. I think really running that close together like the first two are, you have to keep checking your mirrors, got to keep making sure that the guy hasn't put his nose inside you, and it tends to slow you up.
Well, we saw some great battling going on between Valiente and James. It doesn't look like Valiente's car quite has the grip and performance that he'd been looking for. And remember, they made the switch to the Riley, and it's always tough to switch back to a different chassis. But here we see James defends the inside for the inner loop. Gidley probing, looking.
You know, running down the middle of the road like Ian James did right there, it is a defensive posture for sure, but it really leaves the second place car nowhere to go. It's taken away an opportunity to get out of a wreck if one starts to happen.
All the work that has been done so far here at Watkins Glen today, and we've got just 10 minutes shy of a regular Grand Am round to go. 2 hours, 34 minutes remaining. There is still a lot of work to be done here in upstate New York.
We talk about that work in extreme heat here today in New York State, and we've already heard of drivers wanting to get out of the cars, being tired and fatigued. So, as you mentioned, Lee, still a long way to go, and these boys are putting in a lot of work. Here comes Gidley to the inside.
Oh, Ian's really crowding him. That's not a smart thing. You should just let it go.
The 06 Banner Pontiac was caught in the middle. That was Leighton Reese, team principal, but did a good job. Didn't get tangled up with the prototypes. Now they find a passage through, and it's helped Ian James tremendously. He's been able to gap Mamo Gidley. Good
smart driving by Gidley. He could have really forced the issue there, Dorsey, coming into the boot there, and he chose wisely to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of, you don't need to do that in a 6-hour race when you got almost 3 hours left to go in it. I mean, that would have been a big wreck. There would have been 3 cars tore up right there. And it was just over, you know, just defending. Take a look at this thing again. And understand, Ian James there in the 6 car, watch, starts crowding, pushing him over, all the way to the grass is Gidley.
Look at Leighton, he's late on the brakes, almost lost the rear end. And that may be that weight transfer we're talking about. There's been a performance balance change on that Pontiac. A lot more weight bias to the front of the car, and a heavier car this weekend than the one that won at Lime Rock Park.
The harder you look in the rearview mirror, the harder you press the brake pedal.
Well, you know, once you get there, all 3 drivers going, man, I wish I hadn't have done this, you know. Wish we wasn't in this position here.
Valiente was a winner out of that altercation because he was able to gain ground on Gidley in 2nd place. Only one top 10 this year for the 77 Kodak car, and that was a 7th in Mexico City. They're vying for the lead here at Watkins Glen. What a performance. Let's talk GT. It is still the 69 Speed Source car. They haven't been in the lead the entire way. However, this is a strong showing over Kelly Collins and the 57 of Andrew Davis from Stevenson Motorsports.
Of course, this was your pole sitting car. Sorry, Cal. This car sat on the pole, and we were really, it was the first pole for Jeff Siegel. Really good job there. We know that the car is capable of winning. It's yet to win this particular one, but it certainly is capable, and now back up front.
They have to fight their way back to the front of the pack. They had the lead. We had a caution. They decided to wait an extra lap. Thought they'd gain an advantage from that, but got caught in pit lane as the DP leaders came around. So they got shoveled back in the pack, but obviously have the speed here today.
Cal, you talked about them getting shuffled back on that pit call that they made, but they've just been fighting back all day long. They are not out of sequence right now, so they've just been doing this on outright speed. Nick Longy behind the wheel, and the team very excited about the way things are going with that little Mazda. The team saying, hey, you know, right now we're just doing laps. We're taking care of the tires. We have no problems, no issues with the car, so it's just all about staying out of trouble, being consistent. A little bit further back, 2 Pontiacs chasing that little Mazda right now. The Pontiac team still coming to grips with the adjustments that have happened to those cars over the weekend, and they're seeing a little bit more tire wear at the rear end of the car than they normally see. So the Banner team telling Kelly Collins, take care of the rear tires. Don't charge too hard right now. We have a long way to go. We have to take care of the car. Kelly Collins been behind the wheel for a little over 60 laps right now. We should see him change out probably in about 10 laps, but they're definitely making Kelly do his work today.
And this circuit here at Watkins Glen, the long circuit, is a circuit that you can definitely damage your tires. You drive these cars too hard over that fuel stint, and you can absolutely take off the tires. The outside tires will wear out, and you'll get yourself in a position.
Andrew Davis behind the wheel of the 57 machine, currently running in 3rd spot.
And they're the 70 right behind him, the other one of the Speed Source Mazda. This car crashed badly right at the start, right before into the race. The last warm-up session, it got hit. The 10 car hit it right at the apex and crashed the car, and it's a miracle to me that they could fix that car in the amount of time they had before this race. So that's a great story there.
Here's the race leader, Englishman Ian James, who now resides here in the United States full-time and has been racing here in the US and driver coaching, etc. He's very busy, and I think Ian's story is a great one. He's one of those guys who wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth and had to work hard for everything he's got and work his way up through the categories, through the junior formula, etc. And here he is in a big time. Chris.
Your GT leaders in, Nick Longy out, Jeff Siegel getting back behind the wheel. Siegel put this car on pole here earlier today, so this team having a great run. Now, part of the reason that they did fall behind when they tried to pull that trickery a little bit earlier, they had that nice gap and they fell back, but they had some problems in pit lane with some air hoses, so they think they've got that all sorted out. Nice smooth stop so far. Siegel already in behind the wheel, tires done, just waiting for every bit of fuel to go into this car, so real good stop by the Speed Source guys this time around.
Chris, that car looks clean. It looks like it does just when it started. There's no damage on it from what we can see.
Yeah, it looks absolutely perfect. So these guys making all the right decisions out on the racetrack where there's definitely a lot of pushing going around.
Quite often you'll hear the teams and the drivers say it's not necessarily about what you do on the track, it's what you don't get involved in. Don't make any mistakes, don't crash the car, and more often than often you'll be there at the end. As we come back, we go straight to pit lane because there is plenty of action. Chris Neville.
Michael Valiente brings the Sun-Touched machine to pit lane. Max the Axe behind the wheel. This car, we talk about cars looking nice and fresh. Definitely a lot of wheel marks up and down the right and left side of this car, so lots of pushing around in the Daytona prototype class today. Watching this car over the course of the race, Valiente was definitely very nervous under braking going down into one. He has said many times this year that the Dallara is very good under heavy braking. You have to wonder, going back to the Rileys, that just kind of catch him out a little bit. Real good stop by this team. Fuel tires already done, just trying to clear the windscreen, and then Angelelli back down and away. Brian?
Down here at the door in pit right now, the Dallara, Brad Yeager, waiting to take fuel on. All tires already on. He's out on track. Radio problems with this team, though. They had to get the officials to black flag Memo Gidley in the 77 to get him to pit road. The radio not working well in the 77 right now. Finishing
off on the 10, the SunTrust car here, team principal Wayne Taylor, former two-time world sports car champion and sports car racing legend. He got a little bit itchy this week and was keen to maybe have a drive today. He actually did several laps on Thursday night, if you wanted to call them hardship laps, because the team were refamiliarizing themselves with the Riley. And then when it came time that he said he wanted to get in, they said, sorry, too late to have placed your entry.
Well, he wants that 6-hour win, but hopefully if his team can get it, that'll be enough.
Memo Gidley, one of the fittest drivers out here in the paddock, and he's just climbed out of the 77. Memo, you had a smile on your face all weekend long about how good that car was. You got to believe you were smiling over that last stint, but it looks to be brutal right now in the cockpit.
Yeah, this Ford Dorn is really flying out there to Dallara, and it's been a pleasure all weekend. We're just getting faster and faster. It's hot, man. I'll tell you, I love driving so much. There's nothing more I'd rather be doing, but out there I kind of lose the will to live. It's so hot. But we'll get in at the last stint and try and get this baby to the top step of the podium.
No cool suit for you today. Is that something that maybe you're rethinking right about now?
Yeah, that's one area where we're lacking right now, is just trying to get driver comfort. It's just so darn hot in that car. And so we got another race to work that out. Right now we just got to deal with it.
You heard him. They're dealing with it, but you can tell even as fit as Memo Gidley is, really struggling in the cockpit today, guys. That temperature is up there.
One of our points that we talked about, Brian, at the beginning of the show to watch out for is this heat. Now, like Chris had said before, the clouds have moved out of here. The sun directly paving, coming down the pavement. The car's inside about 140 degrees. He's doing that with no cool suit. All he's got is one fresh air little vent that brings in some outside air. But that outside air is 92 or 93 degrees today.
I'm curious about the timing of some of these pit stops. That was lap 30 for both those cars, which is a little shy of what you'd expect. That's under an hour. So you have to wonder whether the team managers and crew chiefs are making the calls based on driver comfort and how they're feeling as well. There's tires and fuel as you normally would.
This is Ian James, the race leader, really kind of shot to prominence in Coney Challenge several years ago when he was driving for the Lexus operation there. He and Andy Lally came through at the same time and were teammates there, along with Jean-Francois Dumoulin, who races in the Rolex, the Grand Am GT class. And Ian positioned himself well to get a prototype ride. It's always difficult to break through that barrier, to get from the lower classes, for want of a better term, up into the limelight like he is. And so to shine and to showcase your skills like Ian James is here, right now, leading this class field, is a really special moment for him in the Mike Shank Racing Ford.
I think Ian James is one of the drivers that's underrated. You just don't realize how good the guy is until he puts on a performance like he's done here today. I mean, he's outrun everybody. And Calvin, I saw something at the back of the car. A couple of support braces are loose and they're dangling around, and I'm not sure what they were hooked to, or if he's had contact or somebody's got into the back of him. But there's two braces that are flopping around back there.
That rear gurney, that rear flap is certainly supported by a similar brace to that, Dorsey, so that will have an effect if that's dropping down. Give them good straight line speed, maybe affect the handling. And here we see the Lola. That's really having a tremendous run. Now driven by Nick Johnson. Zonta, of course, had the crash in qualifying. The team worked hard last night to get this car back on track in good shape. And Zonta had a tremendous run early. We talk about this Lola being very easy on the tires, Dorsey. 6-hour event. Very hot, treacherous conditions. This is going to play into their game a little bit.
And one reason might be, Calvin, watch the body roll when he turns into this corner. This Lola really has a lot of roll to it. It means it's very soft. The springs are soft, and you can see it when it transitions from a left to the right-hand corner. Really exaggerate the roll. Of course, that will give it a lot of traction, and I think that could be why the tire wear is so good.
Big week for Nick, off to Le Mans. Remember, he got on the podium last year in GT2. He, Tracy Crone, and Colin Brown. So we wish Nick and the whole Crone operation all the best next week in France. There's third place, the 58 of David Donohue has taken back over from teammate Darren Law, and they're allocating their time pretty wisely today in terms of the car. They haven't had to do a huge chunk each, but they're just doing it very wisely. Both two very fit individuals, and they're doing a nice job so far. What do you have for us, Chris?
Well, Ian James getting his much-needed break. John Pugh getting behind the wheel. Now, Ian James has been doing 45s out on the racetrack. John Pugh yesterday in practice was doing 44s, so he's a very capable driver and should be doing just fine in the 6 car, keeping it up front, so Ian can get a break here for about an hour, and then he'll finish out the race. Now, this team also concerned about heat on their drivers. What they're doing is they're pre-cooling their drivers before they put them in the car. They've got a cool box on the other side of the pit wall. They have the driver hook into that and sit there for quite a while, running that cold water through their chest to get their body temp down before they get in the car. And then the cool box that they have in the car is actually a thermoelectric cool box. It's not an ice chest with ice in it. It's actually got a cooler unit like a house. So the water temp stays cool. Not as cool as when ice is in the car, but it stays cool for the longer duration, where ice can spike to a real cold temperature and then start coming back to warmer temperatures as it's warming up.
And Chris, you know this, but the people at home probably don't, that when you're driving a race car like this and it's 135 or 40 degrees inside, your physical body temperature actually goes up to about 105, 106 degrees. Your skin temperature is sitting there baking at 106 degrees.
Let's go aboard another of the Mike Shank Fords. And they have their home race coming up next time out in the Grand Am Rolex Series at Mid-Ohio. And their friend and partner Westfield Insurance will be rejoining them. They're very excited about that. They've got a huge supporter base in Ohio. But this is the sportsman driver, Mark Patterson. This isn't the pro, this isn't the big name, and he is driving out of his skin today.
I was going to say, we've been talking about Ian James and the drive he has. This man putting on quite the show right now. Having a race earlier on with John Fogerty and holding off the 99 on sheer willpower.
He came and grabbed me early this weekend and said, oh, I've got a bone to pick with you guys at Laguna Seca. When the car went off track, he said, oh, that must be Mark Patterson. And it was, well done, Negri. And he said, I'm not an easy target, you know.
He's just doing such a great job. Mark is really, really outstanding.
Speaking of the Mike Shank crew, let's go there now with Chris.
Ian James already out of the car, got his helmet off, looking nice and relaxed in this chair. We can see he's already hooked up to this cooler box down here, so he's trying to cool down his body temperature after he's gotten out of the car, getting ready for that next stint. Ian, how bad is it out there? Lots of drivers complaining about the heat.
Yeah, it's really hot there. The main thing is the actual, the extra grip of the Pirelli tires this year is the neck. That's the weakness.
Now, how about that next stint? Are you going to be ready to go?
Yeah, well, I've got Gabby and Ethan watching at home, so I've got to put it on for them. So I'll be getting back in about 45 minutes and see it to the end.
Nice being short in his words, guys. He's resting up. He knows this team's got a car to win.
I remember running here in the Dyson car in turn 1, and then back there down in the old turn 5, your neck feels like it's going to rip right off your head. It's going to come right off the top.
Quick stop there by the 76 boys. Nick Jonsson, he did 34 laps, which is what we're typically seeing in that mid-30 range, as I mentioned before. A little bit of a surprise to see the 10 car and some of the others stop at around lap 30. So there's a lot of strategy involved here today in terms of the body wear on the drivers and the tire wear on the race cars.
Just think about the length of this race, but think about it when you're the crew, when you're the mechanics and engineers, and you had to stay beyond midnight last night to fix that damaged car. And then here they are, running in contention for perhaps a podium, maybe even their breakthrough win with the new Lola. We'll find out. Will the famous Brumos organisation get that winning feeling again today, just like they did back in the September of 2003 at Mont Tremblant up in Canada? A very, very memorable day for them, and this seems like an eternity. Their last race victory in Grand Am competition. And then it was Sasha Masson, Mike Borkowski, and David Donahue, who is here today in the lead car, the 58 Porsche-powered Riley Chassis Brumos team car. And here it is.
That look back shows you how far these cars have come. I mean, look at those two cars that won back then, and now look at this new car.
Think about how far the competition has come also, Dorsey. I mean, totally different ball game here today.
No question about that. This is the most competitive sports car series.
GT leading car is in. Championship GT leading car is in at the hands of Kelly Collins. Chris Neville is standing by.
Well, Kelly Collins definitely needs a break. He's been in the car for approximately 72 laps right now, and it looks like they're going to go with some scuffed tires on the rear. Like, nope, they're going with sticker tires on the rear. I'm kind of surprised about that because the team has been saying that they've been seeing some wear concerns at the rear end of the car, so I figured they'd be going with scuffs, trying to get a little bit more duration out of them. But Paul Edwards already behind the wheel, just getting them buckled in, done with left side tires, just trying to finish up right side, let all the fuel get in the car. And it looks like it's going to be a good stop down here by the Banner boys. Hopefully he can get back out and try and get in front of the 69 car, which pitted just a couple laps ago.
Hey, Chris, when Kelly got out of the car, go check with him. He was limping. I think he might have one of those leg cramps like you get. When he got out, he wasn't walking normal.
That's what I'm thinking, too. I mean, he got out, and he just didn't look good. He might be cramping up a little bit from dehydration.
Well, Kelly never looks good on a good day, so. But enough of that. I mean, he is one of those boys who spends his life in the gym. He's extremely fit, so if he's struggling, everyone's going to be struggling out there today. Sorry, Sharon, it's good.
Well, that's the thing. She's a personal trainer, and fitness are their lives, isn't it?
That's right.
You know, you brace with your left leg here, and you're really pushing really hard on your right leg on both the pedals all the time. And you're doing that. It's like doing pushes with your legs. You know, and then you get out of the car, and all of a sudden you go into a full massive leg cramp. I remember I used to get really bad.
Is it time for a breakthrough win for the 72 Auto House Pontiac? They certainly hope so, and they meaning Tim Lewis Jr. and Lawson Aschenbach and the team.
Slow car up here on the racetrack in front of these two. We'll see what happens. Somebody creeping along right there.
Oh, that's the J-Lo Racing Porsche. One of the TRG cars, Jim Lowe, Jim Pace.
And they won't make it back to the pits at that speed. There's something wrong with that car.
Lawson Aschenbach is a 2006 Speed World Challenge GT champ. He knows how to get the job done, and this team, of course, came off that brilliant pole position at Lime Rock Park, which really surprised the establishment. Tim Lewis Jr. doing a great job there. He likes Lime Rock, but this is a great little team, and just shows the potential of this Pontiac GXPR.
Well, Kelly Collins just trying to take all the stuff off after being in the car. Kelly, the guys noticed you were limping when you got out of the car. You kind of dehydrated, cramping up. The guys thinking you're getting a little old.
Yeah, that's what they all say, but I'm getting faster as I get older. No, honestly, I just hit my knee on the steering column, get out. They put some weight underneath, and I couldn't get my leg up to get out of the car. That just happened. Other than that, the Banner Pontiac GXPR is working fantastic. Chuck, our engineer, did a great job. The car is really hooked up. We're able to manage the tires right now. We can't keep up with the Mazdas down the straightaways, and we're equal through braking and through the corners. And we're just at the 6-hour race. Some of our competition's fallen out, so we're trying to play it smart right now.
With the extra weight and the percentage change in the car, how does that feel?
It just feels slower, heavier. Acceleration on a track like this, you really don't feel the weight as much as you'd think, but because it's 3.7 miles around, when we get on a short course like Climb Rock, I'm sure we would notice it big time.
Guys, Kelly's got a ritual before he gets in the car for the race. He's got a special little sports drink he mixes up and has it before he gets in the car to give him the endurance he needs. But this morning, after he mixed it up, he set it down and walked away. When he came back, it was gone, so he didn't get his sports drink. He asked around the team, and they said, oh, that little bottle of water, we put that in the 6-car's radiator. So he didn't even get a sports drink this morning.
Oh, dear.
Overall order is this man here, David Donahue, then Scott Pruitt in the 01, John Fogarty for Gainsco in the 99, then John Pugh for Mike Shank Racing, top 5, Max Angelelli for Wayne Taylor Racing, then Brian Frizzell for Ray Motorsport, the 76 of Nick Johnson, Brad Yeager in the 77, Terry Borchella, the inaugural Daytona prototype champion, in the top 10, so too is the 60 of Oswaldo Negri.
Let's take a look at this right now. That's Scott Pruitt in the 01. We talked about driver fatigue. You just heard Kelly. He was okay, just banged his knee up. But Memo Rojas, who was driving this car, came in and said, I'm done. I can't drive. I'm so tired. I can't go any further. Now, Scott Pruitt took over with about 2 hours and 50 minutes left to go in the race. He is slated now to drive the entire rest of the distance. If he can do that, 2 hours and 50 minutes, he is going to be in some kind of shape.
That is going to be really tough on Scott, but we've seen him do it before. But these are brutally tough conditions here today. Now, interesting, we've got 2 hours, 9 minutes in. So if any of these leaders start to pit around this point, they should be pretty good for just making it on one more stop. So David Donahue, the current leader, has 33 laps underneath his belt. So he's within a couple of laps or so of needing some fuel. So at this point, it's playing out well for the Brumos team in terms of strategy, which has not been their strong suit this season thus far.
Certainly a lot of the drivers credit the training routines they go to, or certain energy drinks or foods. Maybe Scott will credit it to the grapes he grows for his Syrah wine.
Well, the other thing about Scott Pruitt and the Ganassi boys is that they don't usually use a cool suit in the car. So he's in there just with his own mental fortitude, if you will, and physical ability to carry that car for 2.5 hours.
7 Rolex 24 wins, whether that be overall or class. A Le Mans 24 overall victory. A Sebring victory and a 6 hours at the Glen victory. Actually, I get it wrong. A Le Mans victory, class victory.
With the Corvette boys. And we teased Scott the other day. He's growing grapes and going to make some wine here pretty shortly over in his estate, as we call it. But we said, we don't hurry up, mate. You'll be using your walking cane to crush those grapes instead of your feet.
He is such an inspiration to the younger drivers in this paddock room. He's 48. And he is as fit as ever. He is driving as well as ever. And he has to now, because here comes John Fogarty, defending Daytona prototype champion.
And that's Goosens in front of him, not wanting to get past either.
He's not going to make it easy. He knows the big picture in the championship. Pruitt leads, and those guys are right behind him. So the Goose is not having a great day, but he realizes if he can help the 99 car get around Pruitt, it's going to help his cause as well.
Currently, the 91 of Goosens is down in 16th position and not on the lead lap. Speaking of the leader, here he is, Brian.
58 car has been up front all day long, as we've chronicled. David Donahue, Darren Law not putting a wheel wrong, but it is brutally hot. These two guys also worried about the heat. Remember early on we said they are using cool suits for the first time, so they're too concerned about the heat. A little problem with the right or the left rear wheel gun. Took a little bit of time, but this crew just needs to take their time, do it right, not to make a mistake, and get it done. Right now, the fuel is in, tires are on, they're going to take a tear off. We'll have to wait and see if this team will be good to do it on one more stop. Right now, getting Darren Law situated in the car, still just waiting for the fuel to go in. Now Darren Law's away. Chris.
The Gainsco machine also in pit lane. John Fogarty out. Alex Gurney getting back behind the wheel. This car definitely looking a little bit more beat up than some of the competition out there. Missing some of the louvers on the left front. Also the front of the car a little bit pelted by dust. We've seen Fogarty go off the racetrack a couple times. About half an hour ago, he did have a tire going down, so that was an unscheduled pit stop, but they did not lose their spot on the lead lap. Now they're just trying to, looks like we got some problems here with the car. They're running some water into the radiator, guys. So the 99 machine running a bit hot, spending a little bit too much time on pit lane. I'll see what else I can find out and see if I can get back to you.
Oh, that doesn't look particularly good. Look at the steam, Calvin, coming out of there.
Yeah.
He's pressurizing the cooling system, blowing water through, and it's going to expand some of the water that's in the tank.
Now there's some signal from the mechanic there. They've got to get inside the cockpit. There's more to this than we believe. We thought it was just going to be a quick top up, purge the system. They've got an issue.
They're going into the engine compartment now. I don't know if he's got a fire bottle or what he's got. It looks like he's cleaning out some rubber. Might have been on fire in there by the headers.
Dorsey, the car's been running hot for about the past 20 minutes, so they've been dealing with this overheating situation, waiting to get back to pit lane. I'm just wondering, he's gone off the racetrack a few times with the car, so does that push some stuff up into the radiator grill area? It looked pretty clean when it came in, but they were in here about 20 minutes ago, so did they clean it off at that point in time? But they're definitely spending some time trying to get some water back into the system.
Of course, the problem is when you run a car hot like that, Chris, as you know, and you continue running it and you purge this cold water in there, it almost always takes out a head gasket. The head gasket will fail. Putting this cold water in with water that's probably somewhere up around 250 or more degrees is a shock to the system.
And Fogarty's away. Unwanted extended period on pit road. Can the 99 come back? We talk about the history here at Watkins Glen. Well, there's a landmark that if you're visiting this area or come for the race, you must visit. It's been in existence for over 70 years. The Glen Motor Inn. What a place it is to visit, to have a meal or to stay and look at the legends on the wall in the lobby. Brian Redman, Sir Sterling Moss, the legend Dan Gurney, and the late Graham Hill. And these pictures just go on forever. The Andrettis, Mario and Michael, and the late Francois Sever, who tragically lost his life here in the early 70s. He was victorious here, incidentally, and long before he was a Speed family member, our David Hobbs. I had a meal once with David there. He said, "I was quite handsome back then, wasn't I?"
I don't know if I'd go that far. He's younger, that's all.
He had some serious chops going, didn't he? See those sideburns?
Ian James getting a little neck stretch there.
Ian has worked incredibly hard today. We're back. We welcome you back. This is our new race leader, the 58 of David Donahue, Darren Law, recently pitted, and this is Scott Pruitt. Championship leader in the Grand Am Daytona prototype point situation. He and his co-driver Memo Rojas have had an outstanding season in 2008, have not been off the podium. 3 victories, 1 second and 1 third. It's been an incredible run, and if they finish in the top 10 here today, which it looks like they will do, that will mark 2 years of not finishing outside the top 10. Just an incredible run from the Telmex Ganassi Lexus.
He was pushing really hard there. You see the rear end twitching as he turned into the chicane. He just ran a lap in the 43s, only 7/10 off his fastest lap of the day. But the Brimos boys are having a good one, Brian.
Yeah, David Donahue just climbed out of the 58 car. Tremendous drive. I talked to Darren earlier. First time all year you guys have used cool suits. How difficult are the conditions both in the cockpit and on the racetrack right now?
It's really hot for sure, especially when the cool suit doesn't work, which is what's happened with us. So we changed out the box on that first stop because when I turned it on, I got nothing. I got hotter, so I turned it off, and the second one didn't work at all. So we're not using that, but we got the air in the helmets. The track is getting pretty dirty, as you'd expect after so many hours of running. I think the biggest issue is going to be on the yellows and the restarts. You see a lot of guys with pickup. If you watch the in-car closely enough, or close up on cameras, you see a big chunk of rubber coming off when pace car lights go out. Everyone's trying to get rid of what they picked up during the yellow.
A lot of people at home may not think about race car drivers being athletes, and you and I both know that that's not true. At the beginning of the season, we talked about a lot of weight that you had lost in the offseason. I noticed that the team doctors here checking your temperature when you got out of the car. You're drinking your electrolytes. I mean, it's physical out there. How much workout and training do you guys do to prepare for stuff like this?
It's mostly cardiovascular and heat training, because that's what we're contending with here is heat, and the heat just wears you down. I mean, it's so hot in the cockpits, and you've got all the loads that you're seeing. It's not like you don't have to be the size of JC to go quick in one of these things. I think that's why you see a lot of little guys excel, because they don't have to support all that body muscle, but really just cardiovascular, riding bikes, running. I got a rowing machine that I use during the winter, and some lightweights, more high rep kind of stuff rather than big weight.
These guys working hard both during the season and in the off season. And when the doc checked him when he got out of the car, his core temperature, Dorsey, 98.7. So he's cooler in the car than you were.
I hope Brian did check that core temperature.
I used to actually jump rope in the steam room when I was really physically fit and, you know, really wanting to get used to it.
You jump rope?
Yeah, I can.
When was that? When you were like 6?
That's why I can't walk now. I had a couple of wrecks jumping.
I've never seen you work out in my life.
I have done it.
This is the second place car, the SunTrust Pontiac Riley of Max Angelelli taking over from Michael Valiente. Very strong run. This will really boost the confidence of the entire team if a podium result can be achieved today. It's been a nightmare season, and to cap that off was the fire after Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca experienced to their transport. And we should give a shout out to Larry Harmon and Buddy Johnson, the two truck drivers for Wayne Taylor Racing, and be very thankful that they were uninjured in that incident.
It was much more than what we even documented so far. Not only did the truck burn, but when it burned, everything they owned was in there. I'm talking about their computers that have all of the onboard data. 3 engines that were spare engines, all gone. The car gone, the transporter gone, all their pit equipment. All of this has been lent to them now by Ganassi, by guys like Penske. Everybody in the community gave them something. Whatever they needed, they got for free to use.
Wayne Taylor said his insurance company had been tremendous in working with them. Over $2.5 million worth of equipment literally in ashes, and they immediately sent Travis over, their engineer, to work with Dallara in getting the new car up and ready. That's supposed to be shipped on Monday, so expect them to be back in Dallara by Mid-Ohio in the next round in a couple of weeks.
You know, it's like cleaning your garage out when you do that at home. You don't realize what you lost because you really don't know what was in there until you go to look for it someday and you say, oh no, that was in there too.
Well, the problem was the engineer said he had a lot of the information on his laptop that was actually on the plane with him, but there was some handwritten notes, and they're now trying to recover those and run this Riley and remember all of the things they had under their belt with this car.
Kevin Rouse just climbed out of the leading portion. The GT class is not only hot in the Daytona prototype, Kevin, it's hot in those GT cars as well.
Being from California, we thought, hey, we live in an arid climate in the desert, so we'll just go for it. We don't need a cool suit. But after that half hour on the grid, I was melting in the first stint. I was looking for a third driver, but now 1 stint, no problem. As long as you keep ice packs on and hydrate, we're doing okay now.
Yeah, we were just talking about the car, the power plant in that car right now. Maybe endurance races suit small teams like you guys. You come, you do your homework, you do everything by the letter, you run up front.
Well, yeah, and just stay out of trouble. I mean, I managed to find a little bit of trouble, but I didn't hit anything. You know, it's kind of hard to get by cars even when they're a couple seconds slower than you. So I got away with a couple there, so I'm grateful. But yeah, the team's running like clockwork, and things are going our way so far.
Kevin O'Connell in the car right now. As I said, guys, the leading portion, the field, and that's no small feat when you think about teams like TRG and Fahrenbacher Lowles.
And they've only done half the amount of rounds this year. 6 rounds down already for the GT class in Grand Am competition. They've only done 3. And Cal, they get better every time. 29th at the Rolex 24, 10th in Mexico, 6th at Laguna, and they could be heading for a top 5 here.
Doing a great job out there, and in fact they have now just got passed by one of the other Porsches. That's Richard Westbrook in the 66, but still a tremendous performance here today. They've been up in the top 5 for a while now.
We need to squeeze in a commercial break, but we have got so much more to come from the 6 hours at the Glen, Watkins Glen. When we come back, you're watching Grand Am on Speed.
For Ganassi Racing, Scott Pruitt crosses the line, and now they can all exhale.
Another new winner at Homestead Miami Speedway. Pruitt and Rojas make it 2 from 2. First team in the Daytona prototype era to win 3 from 4 at the beginning of a season. Ganassi do it again. Pruitt and Rojas victorious in Virginia. And that's why this man here, Scott Pruitt, is the most successful driver in Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series history. Does the winning streak continue? 3 wins and a couple of podiums this year. Do they get their 4th victory? And we touched on it earlier, and he really is an endurance master, Scott Pruitt, no doubt about that. The young Mexican teammate, just like Luis Diaz did, Memo Rojas has learned and is continuing to learn a lot from Scott Pruitt. Just have a look at that for a resume as far as endurance victories are concerned. Very, very impressive. And he took control of this car at just under the 3-hour mark. I think it was about 2 hours 50 minutes he has to do by himself. There is a maximum of 3 hours at any one time, any one driver. There's no parameters on the amount of time you must stay out of the car, but there is. It's a maximum of 3 hours in one stint. Chris.
Well, Ricardo Zonta's had a nice break, and he's getting ready to get back in the 76 car. Ricardo, the car looking very strong this weekend. Does this look like it's going to be the breakthrough weekend for the Lola?
Yeah, of course, we worked very hard on the weekend. Yesterday, qualifying, I had a small crash where made us to start from last. And when I was driving, the car was able to be second, third. And we see now, I go back in the car, trying to finish very hard to beat the corner.
You were at Le Mans testing the Peugeot last weekend. One of the Peugeots went 4 seconds quicker than the pole time last year by that team. Pretty surprised about all the speed in the Peugeot this year?
Oh yeah, the Peugeot car is very quick also. I drove there only in the wet because the conditions was very bad. And the only 5 laps on the dry, the 2 Peugeots was on the front, so it was quite good test.
Ricardo Zonta hoping to have a good weekend here and maybe carry over a good weekend at Le Mans next weekend. I'm going to stay close to these guys because I still want to ride on their plane. Brian?
There's no way, Chris. Anyway, down here at Spirit of Daytona, Guy Cosmo, Marc-Antoine Cameron, you got Terry Borgeller with you this weekend. It's nice to see you guys back after such a great run at Homestead. And one more time, the car seems to be running really, really well.
It's really great to be back. We're heavy in this development process with this Lozano Brothers Porsche V8 motor. It's really coming a long way. Benny and the guys there are doing a great job. Spirit of Daytona as a team is really, really evolving. We've got great engineers, great data guys, really accomplished staff. So, Troy and the guys are really doing a good job. Thrilled to be here.
We were talking about the motor the other day and that Lozano Brothers Porsche. Seems like there's more stuff yet to be done. Any idea when you guys will have that or when we'll see you back?
I don't have those answers, and I wish I did. But, every time we run this car, there's an improvement, and it shows in our performance. We ran real strong at Homestead, and we're trying to do it again here.
Doing a great job, Spirit of Daytona, and another one of those small teams that comes out here and performs.
Well, I was talking to Guy during the weekend, and he said that Mike Wright, his engineer, has made a huge difference. Previously worked with Finlay and Lola, and he wasn't around for one of the tests they went to. They completely lost. He came in overnight, looked at the setup sheet, first lap out the next day, Dorsey, they were 2 seconds faster, so it just shows you how important those crew guys are.
And of course, this is not the flat 6 Porsche engine that the other cars are running. This is a V8 Porsche that is being developed by Lozano Brothers, my old engine builders, as a matter of fact, and they're doing a good job of getting the weight of that engine down. It's a bigger engine for an SUV, if you will, and they're getting the weight down, they're getting the horsepower up.
Hear a little rumor that there may be another one of these coming along as well, so there may be 2 V8 powered Porsche cars in the field shortly. Stay tuned for more on that. Brian?
Well, you guys talk about the weight of the Porsche. I was talking to them the other day, Dorsey, and they said they think they can get another 30 pounds out of that motor, and obviously where they want to get it is out up top in the head castings and all that, and they think they can. Think about the power that it's producing now, and if you can get that weight out, not just the weight, but that weight that's up top, how much better that motor will be. It's almost like the BMW, of which they've got 76 pounds out of that motor since its inception in the series.
Drama for the 10, drama for the SunTrust car. Let's show you exactly what happened to Max Angelelli in the 10. Coming through turn 11 onto the front straight.
Whoa, and I said that earlier in the broadcast when someone else spun there, when Jim Matthews spun, that you don't spin that corner and not have an accident. It's almost impossible to do.
He didn't touch anything. He probably lost about half a second. He's on his way. Chris.
Well, guys, communication problems with the 10 car right now. Max Angelelli not able to talk to his crew, so he was working on the radio, trying to work on some connections, thinking he could actually do something in the car to be able to talk to the team. But as he was doing that, he lost it going through turn 11, was able to keep the car out of the wall and also not flat spot the tires. So everything okay, but Max Angelelli having a little turnaround there.
That's all it takes, a little break in concentration. You have to try to fix something that's not normal in there. You take your eyes off of the road at moment, and boom, you're on in the corner.
Well, these are tough conditions for Max Angelelli. We've seen him struggle in the past with the heat and these type of hot, humid conditions. So it's just your body makeup, Dorsey. It's not your training regime. It's just sometimes this type of heat just really affects people differently.
It definitely does, Calvin. There's no doubt about it. You can see guys like Scott Pruitt, we talked about it before. He's going to have to do 2 hours and 50 minutes. That is unheard of. I mean, you can do it. He's from the old school like we used to be, where we didn't have 2 and 3 different drivers. You had to go that distance. But he's up in his age now a little bit too, so we'll have to see.
Go ahead, Lee.
Not only was Angelelli fortunate not to hit anything, he didn't lose a position, but how long will that last for? Because look, the green machine is coming. Nick Johnson in the Proto Auto Lola is now very, very close. 2-3 car lengths behind Angelelli, so the pressure intensifies.
We certainly saw the 76 car with Zonta behind the wheel take it to the 10 car earlier in this race. Seemed to have a little bit more pace. I'm surprised with the SunTrust team they didn't have Wayne Taylor listed as a reserve driver for these hot conditions. I spoke to Wayne earlier in the weekend. He said, yeah, I'll probably list myself, but they decided to do it after qualifying. That's too late, so the 2 guys have to go alone, Doors.
Guys, take a look at the 2 cars, the difference in the 10 car and its ride height at the front. Look at the very front of the splitter on the nose of the 10 car in relation to the ground, and then look at the height of the Lola. The Lola is sitting up clearly a full inch higher, taller, and I think it's because of that soft spring ratio that they're running. It's going through a lot more movement. But I don't think that's good for aero. I can't imagine that much gap underneath the car on a flat bottom car is going to help it out.
Angelelli is currently 3rd. Nick Johnson is 4th. Darren Law for Brumos is in the top 5. Then John Pugh, Brad Yeager doing a nice job. Oswaldo Negri is 8th. Cameron in that V8 Porsche is 9 for Spirit of Daytona. And Alex Gurney, taking over from John Fogarty at that last stop, is in the top 10.
Darren Law here in the 58 machine. We understand from the pit lane that they believe they are good for just one more stop. We talked about that window of opportunity when you can make your final pit stop. And they back time from the end of the race. It's a 6-hour time certain event. Sometimes that checkered flag moves around. If it's a race distance versus time, it's 6 hours solid here. So a little easier to work out your strategy. It's not so much an unknown.
Guys, coming through the inner loop that time, we'll look at it when we go back there again, but it looked to me like the pavement, the asphalt is breaking up, exiting the inner loop. It looked like there's a whole row of big divots coming out of there. That could be a problem for these guys if that's the case.
Stiffy's been out there with his sandwich.
I knew it was going to go there. We'll watch it anyway, because if that's a high load area, and it really looked like the track might be coming apart.
Seeing these guys working their way through traffic, and here we see Max Angelelli. Is he in trouble? We know he's got radio problems. Are there other issues with the 10 machine? Currently running down in the 3rd spot.
Well, Calvin, you brought it up before. We know that Max and this heat don't get along at all, and he won't be able to call in if the radio's not working. He won't be able to call for assistance when he gets himself in trouble, if that should happen.
Angelelli has been able to eke away a little bit from Nick Johnson, hasn't he? Make life a little easier for himself. Dramas here. That's the 21 and that's Matt Connolly Pontiac.
Turn 6 again. It's been bad all weekend for whatever reason.
Tom Long behind the wheel right now.
I think he's probably made contact with the barrier and bounced off. See if he can get the car to roll again. See how much rubber is down there, Calvin. The guys are talking about that. Really a lot of wear.
And I was about to say it's a local yellow only now, but it has gone to full course.
Okay. Well, this throws all of the strategy out of the window for some of these boys.
Here's what happened to Tom Long.
Wow, he lost it way up on top of the hill.
Yeah, he's a little bit wide there. It's dirty offline. You talk about the rubber. David Donahue talked about the rubber you can pick up. That means the rubber's laying out there offline. He was definitely wide going in.
So Tom will limp back to pit road. We're going to duck away for a quick commercial break, come back and catch the round of stops. It's going to be on in pit lane. If you've been with us all afternoon, you know that we are under our 7th full course caution as the field compress. It's due to Tom Long in the Matt Connolly Motorsports Pontiac GTO-R. Had very heavy contact going down into turn 6, the laces of the boot, and Tom's been able to put that car in a safe position right on the entry of their pit box. There's Matt Connolly, the team principal, going over to assess the damage. It's something as a team owner you never like to see, or a driver from that point. But we're getting ready for the DP, the Daytona Prototype pit stops. They get the first go. They get the first roll of the dice. One more lap, and then Pit lane opens up for the GT car. So here is the race leader, Scott Pruitt in. And you heard Chris Neville mention earlier, they are on fumes. So it has come at a very good time for them. Chris, tell us more.
Well, Scott is going to stay behind the wheel until the checkered flag. He does not have a cool suit. The team says that's just fine. Scott is a tough guy. It's not going to be a problem. So this is a pretty planned stop. They were just getting ready to come in, so the caution helping them out right now. They were going to come do this stop right now, and then in about another 40 minutes come in for that final stop right at 1 hour to go. That's a strategy that we've seen by Ganassi and also the 91 a couple times this year. By coming in with that 1 hour to go, then if there's any other cautions when everybody else comes in a little bit later, it pushes those cars right to the front. It's something you see in Sprint Cup, and these two teams have really picked up on that. Brian
Frizzell in the AIM 61 is in. He will stay in the car. They gave him a new drink bottle, fuel, and 4 tires right behind him. The 58, Darren Law, came back in, topped off with fuel, did not take tires. He did take tires, and he is back on track. So a much quicker stop for the 58. The 61 still sitting here on pit road.
Well, they had an option there to keep 58 out, but because it was a quicker stop, they then gained track position over the likes of Pruitt and such. So pretty good call there, I think. I was thinking the other way initially, but now with the quicker stop and gaining track position over Pruitt, still works for those guys, and everyone will be on one stop from this point.
Yes, we're too far out to go to the end. Everyone must stop again at 1 hour and 40 or so out from the checkered flag here in the 2008 Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. Very impressive run for Kevin Doran's Ford-powered Kodak Dallara. Mamo Gidley and Brad Yeager have done a wonderful job. As the cleanup continues, we say thanks to the crews here at Watkins Glen and all of the corner marshals, flag marshals. Thank you for your hard work on a hot weekend. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, it is NASCAR Race Day. John Roberts, Kenny Wallace, Jimmy Spencer, and Wendy Venturini, as always, deliver all the pre-race news and fun from Pocono. NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot. Live coverage begins tomorrow morning at a special new time of 10:30 Eastern. That was Joe Foster coming into the pits in his Hypersport number 40 Mazda. We welcome you back to the 6 hours of the Glen. Lee Diffie along with Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Brian Till, and Chris Neville. Big week in sports car racing because we are all off, as well as 13 drivers who are here today. We're off to Circuit de la Sarthe, Le Mans, the biggest endurance race of them all. Here it is, and just a sampling of the drivers who are here today in Grand Am competition, racing over there in France. We wish all the boys well, and our coverage starts next Saturday, 8:30 Eastern. Hope you can be with us for that.
Promises to be a classic with the diesels, the heavyweight diesels going up against one another. 3 Audis, 3 Peugeots, and battles all the way through the field, particularly in GT1. It's going to be great to see the Corvettes up against a very strong amount of teams running the Aston Martins. The Sahlen ran great at the test as well, so it's going to be some great stuff next weekend.
And as always, at Le Mans, there is some very strong American representation, teams and driver-wise. So we're very excited, as always, to head back to Le Mans. Lights are out on the Pontiac G8. That's a good sign. That means we are going racing. And look who's at the front of the field. Could this be their day? Remember, for the first time they're racing for the Bob Snodgrass Memorial Trophy. This was Bob Snodgrass, the former principal of Brumos Racing, his hometown. He and Mike Colucci, who is the crew chief on the 58. He's the man who calls the shots. They grew up here in Elmira. Watkins Glen is their backyard. And Bob is looking down upon the team and the drivers today. It could very well be their day.
Key is going to be some of these drivers, will they be able to stay into the finish? If there's a driver change on this final pit stop, the final pit stop may be a short one, so the driver change may be the critical factor in not delaying the cars when they're in pit lane for that final time.
Getting ready to go racing. Angelelli is second. Ricardo Zonta is third. Pruitt is in the mix in fourth. Negri, you have got some fast, hard, aggressive drivers here. Frizzell, the young man, Ian James, Brad Yeager, Cameron, and Gurney is back in 10th. What will we have as we go back to racing at Watkins Glen?
Angelelli has to be careful. He got caught a couple of times yesterday, breaking rank too early. They're past the green, they're past the stripe. Angelelli to the inside. He's pinched there by the Ruby Tuesday machine.
Joey Hand, who is not on the lead lap. Will he give a clear passage through? He does.
But he's not going to give a passage to anyone else. He's going to stay there, I believe. Yeah, tucks in.
The easiest route is to stay on the power, then move out of the way right now, Joey.
Darren Law. We climb on board with Oswaldo Negri, looking at Pruitt. It's a braking duel. Pruitt comes across, heading up into the inner loop.
Oh, trouble up ahead. One car through the grass.
Zonta.
Zonta, and they might make contact. He hits Oswaldo. Contact between the 60 for sure. No damage, I don't think.
That was getting ugly there. You have a lap car, a very fast lap car, but nonetheless, this is getting down towards crunch time. Those boys need to get through.
Look how it broke up the field. Maybe that's for the good, I'm not sure. Here comes Pruitt.
Porsche-powered Riley leads a Pontiac-powered Riley, leads a Lexus-powered Riley.
I don't get this. I really don't get this. I have a lot of respect for Joey Hand, but I think he should let these boys get on their way. He's been in this position before.
That car is not for position. He really needs to let Pruitt by, let these guys go in the cleanest area that he can. He's not thinking the same way we are.
Well, he's only one lap down now, so I mean, I guess the argument there is the fact that if he can try and get around the leaders, he'd be back on the lead lap. He's a long way from the leader right now.
Both banner Pontiacs are in. Chris?
Well, guys, they got split up from the rest of the pack, so they didn't come in on that last caution. They were going to try and catch up, just like we saw the 69 do earlier today, try and catch up with the back of the pack and then come in. That didn't happen because we went back to green. So these cars coming in doing green flag stops here, and it looks like they're going to get out, hopefully in front of the rest of the GT field, but it is going to be tight.
Inside, Pruitt finally gets by Joey Hand. Oswaldo Negri tries the big dive on the inside, not to be at turn one. Take a ride with Oz for a moment. Where do I go? Inside, outside?
No pressure.
Says who?
Easy for you to say.
I've been there before. I'm feeling pressure.
We talked about it already. The Shank boys are hooked up here. There you see Negri currently running fourth. Ian James back behind the wheel of the 6 machine. He's 7th.
This is what happened as Negri was going up the inside of Pruitt. Looks like they touched, but they didn't. There was a slight contact between Joey Hand and Ricardo Zonta, and he grass tracks it. Comes back on now. Watch the orange and black and green cars. Just a slight tap there between those guys.
Boy, it was almost 3 wide getting down in that brake zone. There's only room for one at a time, boys.
This could have been ugly right there.
Yeah, it did.
Good control by both drivers. Lucky to get away with that one. Zonta drops a couple of positions.
Clear sailing now for Pruitt. The catch-up games begin with less than an hour and a half remaining. Race leader is Darren Law.
Darren Law set sail. I mean, he really got the benefit of all that pushing and shoving in the brake zone for the interlude.
Top 8 all on the same strategy. The top 8 in the race right now all stopped on the same lap. They will all need one more stop today.
2001 Grand Am GT champion Darren Law leads this field. We documented earlier in this broadcast that Brumos has won the Sahlen 6 hours at the Glen, but they would dearly love to do it again. Here's the 61 of Brian Frizzell on the inside of Joey Hand, not for position, just getting by.
Here comes Ian James. Can he make it through cleanly? He does.
I think by now they've got on the phone to Joey Hand and say, just let these guys go. There's no reason. They're using this for a test session.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, Joey's going to be up front this season, and he's going to need some help from some of these guys, and you don't forget these sort of things.
No, I mean, that's a brand new car right out of the box, and they need to use it for a test session, but he doesn't need to be racing these guys that have position over him on the track. Like you say, those favors come few and far.
Right.
After 4.5 hours of racing, the top 8 cars are all on the lead lap. No lucky dog, no wave by this year. Where you are is where you are. If you're going to work your way back onto the lead lap, you've got to do it the hard way. It's Law, Angelelli, Pruitt, Negri, Zonta, Frizzell, James, Jaeger, Gurney, and Cameron, the top 10. Matt Plummer's been hovering there in 11th position for some time. Joao Barbosa in the 59. Tracy Crone, David Emperingham for Samax, and then Joey Hand is 15th.
What a job this AIM Motorsport team have done. They now have a 3-year commitment with Ford. Great engineering, similar to what Pontiac has done over the last few years in this series. Ford are now doing the same thing.
And Richard Westbrook, as we take a look aboard the Pontiac, and I see the TRG, it is not Westbrook's car, but just a note that Westbrook has now taken over the position as the leading Porsche. He is 5th in class. It's Paul Edwards in the 07, Nick Longy in the 69, and that's here. 1st and 2nd in class right there. The battle is on. Pontiac versus Mazda, as it has been all weekend. Longy ducks up the inside of the 65.
Good job right there, getting that position in a very good, timely manner. Now he gets a run at Paul Edwards. He would like to make this pass happen down the front straightaway if he can do that.
65 was Craig Stanton, former series champion as well in Grand Am Rolex GT competition. But he's a little further down in that TRG car, not on the same lap as the leaders of GT, so Nick Longy just needed to get by. Here's some old rivals, Pruitt and Angelelli.
Rewinding the clock here.
Angelelli got real loose coming out. He hit that curve on the exit of the inner loop, got the wiggle going.
I tell you, we say old rivals, but here's how much respect they've got for each other. I said to Scott once, hypothetically, and it had nothing to do with Memo Rojas, it was just a hypothetical question. I said, if you had your choice, if you could make the rules and you could drive with any driver in this paddock, who would you drive with? He said Max Angelelli. So they have enormous respect for each other. Battle for the lead in GT. Nick Longy on Paul Edwards. Doesn't stick this time.
Well, it was to the outside. Paul Edwards didn't let him have the inside, although they were side by side. There's Pruitt passing.
Got the second place away from Angelelli, and it seemed to be quite an easy move too.
I don't think the SunTrust car is perfectly balanced. We've seen her wiggling around a little bit all day long, both in the hands of Max the Axe and Michael Valiente. So still a great effort by that whole team to be here with the Riley chassis, trying to get back on terms with that car, but doesn't seem like it's hooked up like some of the other cars at the front of the pack today.
Particularly in braking, Calvin. When he really dives the nose down, the car really gets squirmy on him.
Let's have another look at that pass. Cresting the hill, coming out of the boot. There's race leader Darren Law. The battle is on for second.
And here you see it. Pruitt's already got the momentum. Angelelli realizes it's going to happen. Just good, clean racing there. Very respectful.
At the top of GT, 1, 2, and 3. Paul Edwards, Nick Longy, returning to the series. Of course, Jeff Siegel, who very close friends with, has the full-time drive in that car alongside Emil Asentado. Nick thinks about it on the inside, not quite close enough, and they're about to see Robin Liddell very soon. There is the Stevenson Pontiac.
Now watch Paul Edwards in the Pontiac, or watch his Pontiac, either one. Both of them with that extra 100 pounds up on the nose should be inferior in the brake zone to the Mazda. The Mazda's a lot lighter car. It should have its advantage down here.
Well, Mike Johnson trying to strategize their way to another win down here at the Stevenson camp. Mike, I've been listening to you on the scanner all day, telling your drivers to take care of the rear tires. Have you taken the leash off Robin Liddell yet?
Well, right now it's about an hour and a half to go, and we can get about 20-25 laps on tires before they start to blister. This weight's just killing us on these tires. So it's a normal 30-lap stop. We can do 25, so we're going to kind of split the end of the race from here on out. Hit them about 45 minutes ago, short fill like we did at VIR. See what that helps. I mean, that'll give us the best tires from here to the end of the race, and I think we'll be in pretty good shape. I mean, Robin's been doing an awesome job keeping those tires underneath him. He did 23 laps last stint. It was just starting to blister, so.
I know you were saving some scuffs for later in the race. Is that really going to help you out?
Well, we put scuffs on for Andrew, and they blistered also. So right now, we're just saying go as fast as you can. We'll pitch you when you run out of tires. That's all we can do.
Robin Liddell having a good run in the 57 again for the Stevenson team.
Well, I talk about this racetrack and the fact that it is hard on tires. I remember Trans Am days, we used to blister. Look here, this is a race leader now. Nick Longy has got by. He did it on top end speed. He did it going to brake zone, going in the inner loop.
Kelly Collins said earlier when he got out of the car's handling great, it's braking great, but we just don't have the straightaway speed. But that's what you expect with that Pontiac. It's a bigger car, it's a heavier car, and it's going to have its pros and cons. It's great under braking, very compliant over the bumps, good through the turns, but it doesn't have the straightaway speed of the Mazda, it seems.
And look what's happening here, boys. Robin Liddell is zeroing in on the championship leader. Let's take you back to the pass for the lead, though.
Great setup right there. You see, works the draft, goes to the outside. Now that it's a drag race down the straightaway, we know the Mazda has got more top speed and better braking. Paul knew it, too.
The view from Paul Edwards.
This is the view you don't like to see, Calvin, if you're driving. Wait a minute.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Can't do much about that.
Look at Liddell working on Edwards. This is a work supporter. This is the Pratt & Miller banner team in the 07. And you've got the Stevenson Motorsports Group, the privately owned team. And they're fighting with the factory, or, well, you know, semi-factory boys, if you wish. As through comes the 99 of Alex Gurney. It's a great battle.
Threading the needle up through the S's there.
Actually, for the GT cars through there, Dorsey, you do need all of the road to stay flat through there. Easier for the prototypes. They may feel, why don't you get out of the way? Well, unless I lift off the gas pedal, I need all of this racetrack.
This is good, though. The Pontiac boys, Pratt & Miller and Jim Lutz and Lynn Bishop and the guys from Pratt & Miller and General Motors. They applaud this. They welcome it. They say, we have a Pontiac community. We want all of our cars to do well. If the customer cars beat us, so be it. That's good. Competition is healthy.
They say, in a way, the customer teams have an advantage. We'll give them our setups. They don't have to give them ours. So it's a very difficult situation for the drivers of the Banner team. But look at this car. The 57 is hooked up. They've got a very aggressive engineer, Carl Mullally. He's doing a great job for them this year.
So you got the Mazda up front, and then the Pontiac second and third, but don't forget about the Porsches. If anybody knows about endurance racing, it's this man, Kevin Buckler. You've won Le Mans, you've won Daytona, but the 6-hour race has delivered you guys quite the headache. You come in here with Tim George and Spencer Pompelli, second in the championship, but where's it headed, Kevin?
Yeah, this is a tough break for us. We were really on those guys in the championship by a lot of consistent performances this year. But, you know, as the season's worn on, it's gotten tougher and tougher to keep up. You know, we've all had, as everybody knows, some real issues with tires this weekend. Also, with the two different marks out there running away with things, it's really tough on us. The imbalance in the rules is really tough. You know, we're trying to keep up, but there's Mazdas and Pontiacs out there running 2 seconds a lap faster on a track that's supposed to be our track. So I know there's some things coming, but it's almost too little too late. We're not giving up. Richard Westbrook and Bryce Miller and Ted Blue are still out there on the lead lap. I don't know how they did it. We're still up there, but you know, again, a 2-second delta on a track like this is real tough to swallow. So our motto's always been, we'll be relentless and we'll keep going.
You heard him. There's no give up on this TRG team. They just feel like they're a little behind the 8 ball right now, Lee.
And here we have a ride aboard the Marquis Jet 66 TRG Porsche with Richard Westbrook behind the wheel, and it is the top-placed Porsche in the field. We'll be back. So much to talk about this weekend here at Watkins Glen at the Sahlen 6-hour of the Glen, and a man we've spoken about a lot, the late Bob Snodgrass. He was a big supporter of the International Motor Racing Research Centre here in Watkins Glen. All the Brumos drivers were in attendance, where the son of Cameron Argetsinger, the man who began it all here at Watkins Glen, JC Argetsinger, paid homage to Bob Snodgrass, and they laid this commemorative stone in recognition of all the wonderful work that Bob had done for the research centre. And we continue to remember Bob Snodgrass, so too to his former employees and team members, because the 58 Brumos Porsche is leading this motor race. However, Darren Law is being hunted down by Scott Pruitt. This battle on at the front with 1 hour and 16 to go is intensifying.
Darren has responded. He just delayed down a lap of 1:43.7. That's the fastest I've seen from him in quite some time. Just 4/10 off their fastest lap of the day. So Pruitt was handing him down. He's responded. He's turned the wick up, Dawes.
Yeah, he has indeed. I don't think he knew that Scott was coming like that. Scott made up a lot of ground really quickly, and he was running 43.50s, 43.40s. So Darren Law now, they've told him, go. You got heat on your tail.
And he still does. Here comes Pruitt, as close as he's ever been. Remember, once this last hour and 15 is over and done with, Pruitt will have done just shy of 3 hours in this car on a very hot day here in upstate New York.
I think both these cars will be on full fuel, meaning they're getting maximum power because they're well inside. Just one stop to get it to the finish, so there's no point in saving fuel right now, I don't believe. Just turn it up and go for it.
You would say it's a Herculean effort, or if you were Dawes, you would say it was a Herculanean effort.
Herculanean effort by Pruitt, for sure.
Well, the key is, Dawes, as you know, when you're in the thick of the battle, you can make it happen. If he was to suddenly be a lap down, it's a totally different story. The adrenaline rush really makes up for a lot.
Yeah, for Pruitt, this is really good. The adrenaline, you know, having to run down the leader like he is right now, that'll keep you pumped up. And if he does get the lead, just keeping that 58 behind him will keep him pumped up.
It's a Porsche-powered Riley over a Lexus-powered Riley. Lexus has a 10-point advantage at the moment in the manufacturer's race. Chris?
You know, Lee, you guys have talked a number of times this year looking at Scott Pruitt and saying he's driving a bit different than we saw last year. Much more aggressive, really trying to drive that car deep into corners, getting around traffic. And I talked to Scott about that at Laguna Seca, and he said, you know, it's not so much that I'm driving different. It's just last year we spent a lot of time with Mamo trying to get him acclimated to these racetracks because he hadn't been to them before. So he was getting a lot more seat time than I was, and we weren't really able to focus on the setup that we normally did. So this year, Mamo's more comfortable. I'm getting more seat time, able to get a setup on the 01 that I really like, and by having that setup, I can do a lot of things with the car that I just wasn't able to do last year.
One thing they continue to work on as well is that Scott can drive the car with a little less downforce in the car, and right now Mamo's not quite comfortable with it. He said he's getting better with that, and he said I think we'll even come on stronger once both of us can run it in that low downforce setup. But right now Scott Pruitt putting the pressure on. Will he try and make the move? Will he let his pit crew do the job in the pits today?
Well, they got that one pit stop left to go, that's for sure. That's going to happen for both cars. But you're talking about downforce, Calvin, and it looks like the two cars are different. The 58 car is faster on some parts of the circuit than Pruitt is, but Pruitt really does gain in specific areas.
Behind these boys, it's Oswaldo Negri for Mike Shank Racing in third. Angelelli is fourth. Ricardo Zonta, the former F1 driver, in fifth. Brian Frizzell, AIM Autosport again have rallied to do a very nice job in sixth. And then Ian James in seventh. A swing by the GT leader at the moment, who is Nick Longy. What a day that would be if the 69 Speed Source car could notch up a victory.
You see, Nick Longy did a really good thing there. He saw the first car come by cleanly, and he left the door open for Pruitt to come by as well. He just kept his car on the line on the outside and let that happen.
Done a superb job, and the car looks really, really good here today. We see him really just walk around Paul Edwards, so to speak, but there's going to be some strategy to play here between the teams right now. They'll be calculating when they get inside that window, because remember, it really doesn't matter when you pit once you get inside that window here, because if you pit early, you're going to have fuel in the car, so you're going to not need a full fuel load anyway. If you wait, there's just a splash going in, or another splash, but half a tank full as well. So lots of options for these teams right now.
Darren Law, he's been a stalwart of Grand Am Rolex Series competition for many, many years now, and will drive anything and drive it well. Tell us more about the 58, Brian.
Well, I was interested to find out whether or not David Donahue would get back in the 58, because I thought they might take the opportunity to put a fresh driver up against Scott Pruitt in the end, knowing that Scott will have been in the car for several hours at a time. They won't do that. That'll take too long on the stop, and that does make sense. But you've got to wonder, even with Darren being in the car for a little over an hour and a half, it's still half the time that Scott will have been in the car. And as you guys know, it's the heat is one thing, but the longer you're in it, the more susceptible you come to making small mistakes. And at this level, it only takes a small mistake to throw it all away.
And Brian, that's probably why it's so good that Scott's under this intense run that he's doing right now, because with him having to concentrate at the level he is to try to run down the 58, it keeps him sharp, keeps him really on his toes.
Behind Scott Pruitt is the Corvette of Team Sahlen, one of the two Corvettes from Team Sahlen. Oh, it's just spun.
You jinxed it. You shouldn't have said anything.
Wow, that's Joe Nonamaker. That's the father. And we should make note at the moment, and we should say thank you to Joe Sahlen, who is part of the Nonamaker family racing organisation of Team Sahlen. Joe is, of course, the head of the Sahlen Packaging and Meat Company based in Buffalo, the principal sponsor of this event and has been for a number of years. He's a fourth generation operator in that family-owned company, proud to be based in Buffalo. And he brought a very special guest and friend of his along today, Buffalo Bills Hall of Fame running back Thurman Thomas, who was our honorary starter today. And it's been a very big, very exciting weekend for Team Sahlen, and to have Thurman Thomas here, and we wish them well. They too are very strong supporters of Grand Am.
Let's take another look at the spin down in turn one here.
Just gets in too deep, Calvin. It's so easy mistake to do in a downhill braking zone like that. Hops the back end around and just simple 360.
Yeah, one thing that we should say is that Joe Sahlen is really starting to show some significant improvement. He's always had the speed over one lap. I spoke to the team at Lime Rock, and they said he's now showing the consistency, and that really helps our overall effort. So these boys don't have all of the frills. They just get the job done. They really work hard on the race cars. Their transporter isn't the fanciest in the paddock, but they just love racing. It's a real family effort, and they're giving it 100% all of the time.
Back to the front of the race. The split between Darren Law and Scott Pruitt is 2.6 seconds. We will continue to monitor that. Chris.
Well, Lee, we've talked a lot about the heat conditions out here today, and a lot of teams doing different things. We talked about the thermoelectric system that the Shank boys use. Well, the 91 doing something a little bit different, too. A lot of the teams have these cool boxes that they put ice in, but this team doing something different. This is actually an insert for that cool box. If a team just put cubed ice in the cool box, it doesn't last that long because the cubes melt pretty quick. So what they like to do is use a big block of ice because that big block is going to last longer. However, in endurance racing, you've got to change that block a couple times. So the guys trying to mess around with a big slippery block during pit stops doesn't quite work. The 91 guys, they built this insert. It's got a nice handle on it. They freeze this whole block. They've got a few of these, so on their pit stops, all they do is pull one insert out, drop the next one in, and that way they've got that really cold temperature that you can't quite get with those thermoelectric systems, but you can get with block ice.
That is really cool, Dorsey.
Yeah, it's a great, there's somebody's thinking on their toes. Ian James up the inside right there, Brian Frizzell.
That's the position.
This is a great battle going on. Leading that thing, that's the 6th place position, is Angelelli. Zonta right behind him. Ian James now, and Frizzell.
Yeah, you got 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th right there. Pressure mounting on Max Angelelli. Zonta has driven a very good race today. Here comes the 6th, the familiar 6 of Ian James. Zonta on Angelelli. Well, that was an Angelelli move on Max.
Yes, it was. The axe.
And look at James to the inside, 3 wide now.
Hit.
Zonta didn't know that James was to the outside. Max reacted.
Ian gave him one back.
No favors between Angelelli and Zonta. They have a personal and professional relationship away from the track, but that goes out the window on the racetrack.
I said before, you can bang around on these cars. They're solid cars. You can hit each other like that.
Wow, and the 61 dives to pit road. Let's take a look at that sequence again. This was a super move from Zonta.
Total commitment down to the inside. Max gives him just enough room, then on the power early, accelerates up the hill. James to the outside. Zonta reacts, tags James, and he gives him one back there, Dorsey. Yeah, this is strategy playing out. Maybe these boys feel they're in the window, can be the first guys to pit and get to the checkered flag, Brian.
Brian Frizzell out of the number 61, the AIM Autosport. A little fire on the left front. Just a little debris on that very hot brake rotor. So this should be, as you said, Calvin, the first of the teams that can stop and then make it to the end. So as everybody else comes to pit road, these guys will have the advantage. They'll start picking up track position. Wilkins behind the wheel, Frizzell out. He has been so fast, this team's so good. Are they going to break through and get their first podium? Can they find victory circle? We'll find out.
That's a good point, Brian, because some of the teams saying they can go about an hour and 8, hour and 10 on fuel. There's an hour and 6 to go. Will it be all green? Will we face another caution? All yet to be answered. Just another one of the features, the natural features of this wonderful area of the United States, the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, and Seneca Lake here, second deepest lake in North America. Very interesting.
Got one of those monsters in it. It's got a price on it right now. You can get one of those things, $1 million.
Back to the racing. Look at this. Angelelli is still fending off a determined challenge from Ricardo Zonta. That battle will not go away, Brian.
One of the fastest car and driver combinations this weekend is about to get back on track. Memo Gidley behind the wheel of the 77. Brad Yeager doing a fine job as well. Was only about a half a second off the pace, so running a very good pace right now. The stop is done. They're just trying to get Memo that drink bottle and get him all hooked up with that blower into his helmet so he'll have some cool air. Get him back on track. The stop's taking a little while, but Gidley's now back in the fray.
Calvin, from now on, all these cars stop, and they're all set to go now. It's going to be an interesting race.
They are, and the key is for the guys who have stopped and stayed on the lead lap. If we were to catch a yellow now, pit lane be closed, they would gain track position. 01 is in, Chris.
Oh, well, this is what we anticipated. About an hour to go. Pruitt in, going to be fueling tires now. This should be a bit of a shorter stop because Pruitt was just in about a half an hour ago, so about a half a tank of fuel in this stop. The Hoff Tim Keem radioed to Scott just a couple laps ago. Hey, man, you got the fastest car on the radio track. You're reeling him in. Scott Pruitt's response. Scott Pruitt responded to that. Yeah, kitty, kitty, kitty.
Uh-oh. Tony Stewart thing, eh?
And speaking of the Cup, Scott was busy this weekend, or this week, should I say, Tuesday, Wednesday at VIR, doing some Cup testing for the Ganassi group. And I understand he was one of the fastest cars there, as you would expect on a road course, Dorsey.
Yep, you would. And look in pit lane, and you're going to see what is about to be the race coming out here. These guys all pitting for the final time.
So, Darren Law, the race leader, how will it shake out for the 58? How long will he stay out? When will the Brumos team bring them in?
Needs to pit now.
Chris?
Well, guys, while Pruitt was in the 10, the 6, and the 60, he also took fuel and tires. Now Alex Gurney turned in the Gainesville machine, fuel and tires. This car still running a little bit hot when it's in traffic. When he's out in clean air, the temp comes down and the 99 is fine. But if he gets up behind some cars, the temp starts going back up. Gurney also saying, hey, guys, I drank all the water in the car. I need a new drink bottle in here. So he's also dealing with this heat. Looks like the team also going to be adding a little bit more water to the radiator and the cooling system of the car. So a bit of long stop, and it looks like the 58 going towards Brian Till.
Darren Law brings the 58 to the stop for the final time. It'll be tires and fuel. They will not do a driver change. That's going to take too much time. This stop needs to be flawless. Right now, left side tires going on, fuel going in. Everything so far is going to be nice and smooth. The stop will be relatively quick as well. Not a lot of fuel gets to be put in this number 58 Porsche powered Riley. Right side tires finishing up. The last drops of fuel going in. Darren Law waiting, and finally back underway.
Good call there, Brian, by the Brumos team. If you stay out, all you can have happen to you is you can get hurt if there's a yellow. By the pit lane being closed, you have to wait to pit and everyone goes by you.
Here comes Pruitt. Pruitt is coming down the front straight. This is going to be tight. Will Pruitt have the momentum down into one? Can Darren Law get out in time? He does, but Pruitt is already up to speed. Darren needs to build.
Well, the advantage he has, Dorsey, is a very hot racetrack, but it's still going to take a while to get pressure in those and get the car performing. So Pruitt knows if he's going to win this one, he may need to pounce immediately.
And that's what he's about to do, heading up towards the inner loop. Pruitt in the 01 has the momentum, goes to the inside. Darren Law cannot do anything about it, and Scott just gives him a bump for his trouble.
Well, if he braked any later than he did, you saw Darren Law with a little bit of brake lockup because of the front tires still not up to temperature. Oh, and a car off right there.
I'd have to suggest with the gap that Darren had that pit stop by the Brumos boys may have been a couple of seconds longer than the Ganassi stop, and that is why Pruitt was so close and being up to speed quicker.
And gaps him immediately. In the background, Oswaldo Negri is looking good in the 60 Mike Shank Ford. Let's relive that pass.
And remember, Darren Law on cold tires is not going to be able to brake as deep as Scott Pruitt, who's up to temperature already. You'll watch. He will try to crowd it right here. He said, I'm not going to let you by. There's a little shot, and the pass is made cleanly.
Pruitt had a head of steam there, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. He was coming.
Had one mission. He was coming through.
And this is a great response to the frustration at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca from Oswaldo Negri, Mark Patterson, and the Mike Shank team, and the boys who run the 60 car. It was very annoying. It was very frustrating that they made the error there. There was damage to the front of the car, and that dropped them one place from 3rd to 4th in the championship in the Daytona prototype class. But they said, we kind of got away with it. We only dropped one place. Didn't hurt us too much. We're still in the chase. And here they are. They're sitting in the top 4 places late in this race with less than an hour to run in the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen.
Meanwhile, Ricardo Zonta leads this race. He has 21 laps on the board, so he'll need fuel, certainly, by keeping him out. They run the gamble. If there was a yellow, that would catch them out. However, he will have fresher tires at the end of this to respond to any challenges, so he'll be pushing really hard. His fuel stop will not be any quicker by pitting later, because the other guys didn't need a full fuel load either. Well, they needed a full fuel load, but they didn't have an empty fuel tank.
The tires could be the issue, though, with this heat, like you were talking about, Calvin. Fresher tires, if you're going to run at 10/10, always pays off.
Well, particularly if you suddenly get a caution and everyone's stacked up and your tires are maybe 10, 12 laps fresher, that will definitely be a factor here going to the checker tonight.
Full course yellow.
Now watch this. They just got hurt.
That.
He cannot pit.
67 TRG Porsche of class contender Spencer Pumpelly, Tim George, and Andy Lally. The monster cable Porsche has come to a stop.
And that's the car I saw off the road a lap or so ago.
Chris?
Well, guys, Paul Edwards in the 07 Banner car came in, so they're going to get lucky with this caution, but it was a long stop because he got the car in a little too close to the wall, so very difficult changing the right side tires, but they did come in before the caution came out, so he's done and he won't need to come back in, so they should assume the lead once everybody else comes in GT.
That's a big break for those boys to catch that just like that, and certainly a little mistake there by Paul, but the crew reacted well. But for Zonta, watch when this cycles through. This is going to kill him in track position.
Class leader, Nick Longy. Runner-up in the Rolex 24 at Daytona GT class in 2005. To notch up a win for he and his good friends Emil Asentado and Jeff Siegel. And what a sequence of weeks that would be for Siegel. First professional win in Coney Challenge 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, first pole. Incidentally, Siegel's pole yesterday was the 7th different pole sitter in GT and Grand Am this year in as many races. Unbelievable.
I have to get back to Paul Edwards' pit stop. That was a brilliant call by the Banner boys. They saw that Porsche off to the side of the road. You've got to think, is there going to be a yellow? If there's any potential, get the car in now. That's exactly what they did for this man, Paul Edwards. The other guys have to wait for their pit stop. Paul Edwards, as Chris said, will cycle to the front.
All right, as we like to do when there is a full course caution, we'll squeeze in a commercial break so you don't miss anything. We'll be back with more of the 6 hours at the Glen right after this. To Watkins Glen International, home of the US Formula One Grand Prix for some 20 years. Some marvelous times back in the day. Who was the last driver to ever win a Formula One Grand Prix here?
Oh, goodness, we know it's in Australia.
Come on, come
Alan
on, come
Jones.
on. There you go.
Speaking of F1, we have an Englishman on the pole. In the final session, the Aussie was last.
Not last, 10th.
Last in the session.
Last in the final. Yeah, go. Made the top 10 though. Okay, let's go on. Let's move on. So the 76 Proto Auto Krone Racing Lola of Ricardo Zonda choosing not to come in that time round and staying at the head of the field behind the Pontiac G8 pace car.
I'm sure if you ask Jeff Hazel why right now, you will not get a straight answer.
You got that is for sure.
Chris has been working on that very task. Let's go to Chris Neville right now.
You don't want a straight answer. I'm talking to the guy that we're definitely not going to get a straight answer from. Jeff, I think we were expecting the 76 to come in on this caution. What are your options?
Well, it's a bit of a casino here today. So we have a couple of options. And if you hang around, you'll see which one we're going to use.
Imagine that.
Well, guys, I think at least I would have played it a little bit conservative. He would have dropped back to probably about 11th or 12th if they came in on the caution. But at least then he'd have time to run the car back to the front. The longer they stay out, the less time they're going to have.
I think their only hope is that they feel they got a fast race car, can get some sort of a cushion, maybe not as damaged in terms of track position when they pit, Chris. But I'm with you. Yeah. You know, they're rolling the dice a bit.
You're running out of time in the race. You know, the longer he goes, the least amount of laps he has to get the job done when he does lose what he's going to. So,
and watch the 99 here as well of Alex Gurney to try and get back up on that lead lap. So he'll be making a move on the 76, or attempting to make a move on the 76 when we go back racing.
You can bet on that.
As far as the GT class is concerned, still the 69 speed source Mazda of Nick Longy over Robin Liddell, Tim Lewis. A couple of Pontiac GXPRs make it 3 with Paul Edwards in 4th and Mark Bunting in 5th. And then the 22 Allegra Motorsports Porsche of Mark Bassang in there as well, ahead of Kevin Roush.
Well, that's a very good point. You're talking about the position of the 99 car. I mean, by the 76 car not pitting, it's absolutely killed the 99 strategy, because they're effectively a lap down and he can jump around him, but otherwise he'd be at the back of this lead pack and Zonta would have pitted.
You know, for these GT guys that have tire issues, if you will, this caution helps them quite a bit. It lets everything get back in check again. You know, they take some laps off what they have to run.
It's going to be a bit of a stretch, though, because we spoke to Mike Johnson. He said about 25 laps before they encounter problems. They've got a longer run than that to go. Getting close to that now, though, so they should have a good battle on their hands.
GT cards are in. Remember, DP's first, GT's next. Here we go, Chris.
Well, guys, I can see the 69 way down pit lane. They came in. The 57 where I am. They're also in. Robin Liddell staying behind the wheel. Mike Johnson giving him some water. He hasn't had water in quite a long time, so they're worried about him possibly dehydrating. They're going to do 4 tires and fuel. Now, they are going with sticker tires on this car, so Liddell going to have to take care of those since they've been dealing with some blisters on the rear of the car. But right now, you can see Robin Liddell taking a lot of water in the car. The team doing a really good job with the pit stop, just trying to get all the fuel in there. Brian, what do you have down at your end?
Well, you're going to have a fresher driver down here at the Auto House, number 72 Pontiac GXPR. Lawson Aschenbach taking over for Tim Lewis. Now, this Pontiac team using a little bit of a different strategy. They went with a regular sprint pad on the brake pads, a softer pad. It gives them more aggressive braking, but they had to change it at the 3-hour mark. They said, look, we'll take the aggressive braking and take a 20-second pad change. So that's exactly what they've done. So you're going to have a fresh driver in Lawson Aschenbach and some great brake pads still on this Pontiac when he heads back out here.
Right now, timing and scoring is showing this car in the lead, but that's because they're way down pit lane and they cross the stripe and then stop. So I think it'll be Paul Edwards who assumes the lead in the 07 Banner car. We talked about that strategy by pitting right as the yellow is coming out. They'll gain good track position because of that.
There is the 88 Farnbacher-Lowell's Porsche minus its left headlight assembly, exiting pit road.
I can tell them where they can find it at.
Yeah, it's right
it's
on the top.
sitting up in turn 11 now.
Big Steve Johnson and Dave Lacey enjoying time today with their new team driver, John Potter, the third driver in that 88 Farnbacher-Lowell's Porsche. Krone Racing, the only team in the DP era to win 2 Sahlen's 6 hours at the Glen. And boy, weren't they pleased to do that. Jorg Bergmeister and Boris Said winning in the Ford-powered Riley in 2006, and Nick Johnson, Tracy Krone, the team principal, a year earlier in 2005 in their Pontiac-powered Riley. The only team to do that in this Daytona prototype era. It's going to be a long stretch to make it 3 today.
See the drivers there really starting to weave around, trying to clean those tires up, particularly Vazonta. He's out there on hot tires. Not such an issue with the pickup when you got fresh rubber on, which is cold, but hot race tires and you stay out there under caution, that'll pick lots of rubber out.
And we've already heard the drivers complaining about that, and we see it out there on the high load corners, how much rubber is out there, spent rubber. It just glues right to the tire that you're trying to keep clean. Look how slow they are here, almost to a stop.
An awesome race on our hands now as we get down to these final laps. I just love this 6-hour event, Doris. It's a classic race distance. It just allows for a lot of strategy to play out, but you still run it flat out.
Yeah, and somehow it always gets down to this, doesn't it? You're going to get down to about a 45-minute sprint race now. All the strategies are out the window. It's best man wins from this point forward.
Lights out on the G8 Pontiac, as we've seen many times today. How many is that, Dors? 8? 8 cautions?
That is 8, that's correct.
You know, you like to keep count very effectively.
Run out of fingers. So.
I got my shoe off just in case.
All right, let's go. Pressure is on here. Watch the all-red Gainsco Auto Insurance 99 Pontiac Riley. It's going to try and pounce on Ricardo Zonta. Here we go. The green flag flies. Alex Gurney, the defending series champion. Will he bust a move here? Inside down into turn 1. Gets back on the lead lap.
He has to. And watch this. Here comes Darren Law.
Law to the position, the inside. We'll take that.
That is for position. That is for the race lead. Darren Law to the front.
And puts Zonta in between he and the hard-charging Scott Pruitt.
We talked about the Lola being easy on the tires. One of the problems they have is when you go back to green.
And that is actually the 59 of Barbosa. We got tricked again with that colour scheme, didn't we? That's happened to me today twice. There's Darren Law a little further back, so it's Pruitt who is the man there in the lead position. So that's good driving by Joao Barbosa, though, to make the most of that and get by Zonta, doing exactly what Alex Gurney did. Now they'll try and run away here. They'll try and skip away. The 01 is in the position of power.
He's in the lead. Let me clarify.
In the meantime, the guys up front want a yellow right now. They put them right around to the back, and they could go back to doing business.
So much easier when the 58 was in Red Bull livery.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
I'm excited for Darren Law.
Further back, Oswaldo Negri. It's the team cars, the Ford-powered Rileys of Mike Shank Racing. Oswaldo Negri and Ian James.
These were the guys having a real good tussle before they made their pit stop. So it's just back like it was before, and all they have tires and fuel.
And remember the change there from the exchange-traded gold Ford-powered.
Oh, to the inside. Very aggressive move, late move on Ian James. Got the job done. We talked about Max the Axe maybe struggling in this heat. He's done an awfully long stint as well and still behind the wheel.
Boy, you won't want to like that at all because that left-hand corner's off camber. It's really hard to get the car through there. And if you get pushed out wide like you did, man, he did a good job holding the car.
That's why he went defensive on Mark Wilkins. Wilkins may be able to get a run on him down the front straight. Chris.
Well, guys, right before we went back to green, it was very interesting. My scanner just lit up all these drivers checking in with their teams, wondering who was in the cars around them. So all these drivers trying to figure out who they were going up against in these closing laps.
That's a good point, Chris. You know, you don't know who's in there. You drive differently with the people you know than people that you don't.
There is no love lost between Ian James and Brian Frizzell. They've had a few run-ins this year, so there we see it down the back stretch. Brian Frizzell in that gold machine in the background, looking for a way by Ian James in the 6 car.
I'm sure James is still a bit furious about that move put on him back there in the left-hander.
Paul Edwards has assumed the lead in GT, as you correctly said earlier, Cal. Then Robin Liddell, then Jeff Siegel. So it's Pontiac, then Mazda, then Lawson Archenbach, then Kevin Roush, and then Mark Basseng and Andy Pilgrim in the 06 Banner car. What a day Ian James has had. This has been like a torture test for these drivers. Hot conditions, very humid actually, and very, very testing.
Ian talked about the G-loads as well, Dorsey, around this very fast racetrack. Someone run off there in the background.
Yeah, those G-loads, they really make your neck sore.
Here we go again, same corner.
My goodness.
That's why we call him the Axe.
He's found something. He's found a place that nobody knows that they're going to get past. He's just jumping on them.
That's a big move on Negri.
It is. He just rolled off the brakes, Dorsey, and got it down to the apex. Caught Negri on the way, just as he did to Ian James the lap before.
So Max is not done with yet. Another position.
We're going to get it back.
2 and 2 laps. Mark Wilkins looks on Ian James here. The run down the front straight. Ian James defensive down into 1, as you'd expect. Both Ford-powered Rileys.
Mark Wilkins talked about he has to be more aggressive this year. He's taken over from Brian Frizzell. Another young gun. He talked about the heat at Laguna. He said he's been spending extra time in the gym in preparation for this 6 hour. And boy, when they got here and saw the weather forecast, he was glad he did.
Hey, he's not used to this heat. He's from Toronto.
That's right. It's still snowing up there.
Well, they're saying this year in Toronto, it doesn't seem like we're ever going to get a summer. It's still too cold up there. Riding with our class leader in GT, Paul Edwards.
Pretty good gap there, as you see. Second place car, Robin Liddell. Similar Pontiac.
What 2.3 seconds looks like.
But behind that, there, the Mazda, the 69, the Pole City. Watch him. He's got top speed.
Of Long, he certainly did a great job in the stint before, and Jeff put the car on the pole. He's their designated hitter here. He's the closer. And that car just looked so balanced here. Very fast through the inner loop.
Well, we know it's got top end. We know it's got good brakes. We know its tires last longer and it's a lighter car. All things in the favor of the Mazda, I think.
Think about the established names that you have in Grand Am Rolex GT competition, and then a fresh name pops up like Jeff Siegel, and he can mix it and he can run with these guys. It's good for the series. It's good for his career. And the Speed Source team are very proud to have him on board. Good young talent with a long career ahead. What can the 72 car come up with today? Lawson Archenbach. They would love to put this Autohaus Pontiac on the podium here in Watkins Glen. Best result is 4th in 2008. A podium would really be motivating right now. And they've got time to do it. Still 40 minutes of racing left to run. We're live here at the Glen, Watkins Glen. So much more when we come back. I want to tell you about something pretty cool. Speed and Michigan International Speedway are teaming to bring you an experience like no other. You can get an all-access pass to the garage and see your favorite drivers from the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series on June 13th. Space is limited, so go to misspeedway.com right now to find out how to be a part of Speed. Be there for the garage experience at MIS. We're back at Watkins Glen. Great to have you with us. Live coverage of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, and what a battle it's been in GT today, and what a story this is for what you would call the second Speed Source car, which is the 69 car. Jeff Siegel has got by Robin Liddell now. That's Stevenson Motorsports Pontiac, and he is on a charge and wants his maiden victory in Rolex GT competition. He's only got one more car to get by, and that is the category leader and championship leader, Paul Edwards.
The Mazda's handling on the straightaway is incredible. It's quite honestly, it's got about 15 miles per hour. It looks like faster than about any other
Well, he's got speed to burn right now. He laid down a lap 2 laps ago, 52.9, fastest lap of the race in the GT class. And at that time, Edwards was within a tenth of his best, but that lap by Siegel was 7/10 faster, so just incredible stuff.
Of course, Edwards will be told by his pit guys that Siegel's coming, but there's not much you can do on the straightaway. I mean, there's only so much blocking you can do. If the car's got that much dominance, he can pass you right down around the outside.
Well, he's seen it already today, so.
Let's take you back to witness the pass. Jeff Siegel on the right in the white Mazda, Robin Liddell on the left.
See, same thing, right around the outside. You can't defend them, and you can do your move to the inside, and you're not going to take the inside. But if the guy drives around you on the outside,
yeah,
not much you can say about it. And I think you're going to see it replicated.
That's how a lot of your competitors felt when you had that 1,000 horsepower Cougar or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I like that good driving straightaway car.
Well, let's see. I mean, the key is managing these tires as well. We talked about it. It's very critical with these GT machines, but that Mazda is lighter weight. Pontiac has got that 100 pounds that's been added since Lime Rock from last round.
And quite honestly, I mean, this track and Daytona are going to favor the Mazda configuration without question. No matter what, if the 100 pounds were there or not, of course, it doesn't help the Pontiac, but the Mazda is going to be strong when here in Daytona.
The 2 cars in front of the 01 Telmex Lexus are just scrambling. They are running as fast as they can to stay on the lead lap, because that is Scott Pruitt in the white and blue Riley. He is the leader of this race. The green and blue Proto Auto Lola will be needing to come in soon. Ricardo Zonta has been out on this stint for a long time, and then Darren Law in the 58 Brumos Porsche is immediately behind. They work their way through traffic past the number 40 of Charles Espenlaub in the Hypersport Mazda.
Well, certainly the 99 and the 59 desperately need a yellow, so they essentially gain 3/4 of a lap on the leader, but that's a big if right now. 34 minutes to go.
Bob Stallings and his team, his drivers, were feeling very optimistic that this could be their win, their first win for 2008. It was where they really got some heavy traction last year in their championship winning season and went on from here.
The problem is no one told Scott Pruitt about it.
Exactly.
This guy is amazing. I'm telling you, I was his teammate for a long time. I mean, look at him. He's getting up in his age, but his fitness is no question about it. He can get the job done. I mean, he just got his head down, and he's a tough one.
Mark Wilkins executed the move on Ian James and has extended his advantage over Ian. So that was a confident, a strong move, and that Ford-powered Riley is going from strength to strength. Speaking of the AIM team, we'll get there shortly, but this is a pass and a change of lead in GT. Our pole-sitting driver is now the lead driver in GT. Jeff Siegel has got by Edwards.
And you notice he did it well before the brake zone on the outside. Just drove completely right around the outside of Paul Edwards. Nothing you can do about that.
Another look at this pass. You see the Mazda now in front of Paul Edwards with the lead. Let's see how it happened. Same spot as before when he just did it to Robin Liddell. Down this long back straightaway. Add horsepower from that Mazda lighter weight machine on this long straightaway. That works, boys.
Watch this. This is Paul Edwards to the inside. He's on the preferred line. On the outside, Jeff Siegel's got a huge... Look at the speed. I mean, see ya.
Is that when you say zoom, zoom, zoom?
That's zoom, zoom right there for sure.
No doubt about that. Let's go down to the AIM Autosport team. Brian.
Mark Wilkins doing a good job right now. Brian Frizzell just got out of the car. You guys have not qualified outside the top 5, but you haven't finished inside the top 6. And right now you've got what amounts to a 5th place car. When you look at Mark on the racetrack right now and the guys he's battling against, 35 minutes to go, is top 5 going to be good enough for you guys today?
You know, I mean, I think we have a shot for it. Mark's doing a really good job. He just passed the 6 car. He's now reeling in the 60 car. We'll see. I mean, it's a hard place to pass. The braking zones are short. But if there's a guy that can do it, it's Mark.
You and I talked earlier about the conditions in the cockpit and how warm it is and actually just how brutal it is. And we talked about Scott Pruitt. I know you said you guys have been monitoring their radios. If he makes it to the end of this thing, is he going to be your hero?
Yeah, he will. I mean, I train hard, and my trainer, John Rivera in Aspen, keeps me in very good shape. And if Scott Pruitt makes it to the end, I got to train harder because that's crazy.
The Incredible Hulk may actually be in the 01 right now, guys.
You know, Calvin, you can relate to this. Part of the training thing and all that, Scott Pruitt's got
that, but you can't.
Well, Scott Pruitt has got a mental situation here, too, that he can calm himself. in this particular situation. He can bring his blood pressure down. He can bring his breathing down. He can completely calm himself in this thing and save the energy in his body. You train yourself to do it by driving these race cars like this.
These cars here, the 99 and 59, are running 9th and 10th and are the last 2 cars on the lead lap. If Pruitt goes by, that obviously changes, but it's good driving from Alex Gurney's Joao Barbosa.
Really is, and there you see Pruitt. He'll be calm until he sees Darren Law in his rearview mirror, and these cars that are essentially almost a lap down to him start to hinder his progress. So Pruitt is on a mission, 31 minutes to go, just over, so still a lot of action going to take place here today. And for Zonta, I think that Jeff Hazel's rolling the dice backfired when Zonta lost the lead. He needed to stay out front and try and grab a cushion here, so I don't think that's going to work out for those boys now with the 76 car.
What is that for Zonta? 33 laps on this stint, am I reading that correctly?
Yes, you are. 33 laps.
So he'll be in any moment now. But let's talk Ganassi. Here's Chris Neville.
Well, Tim Keen's calling the shots down here, and Dorsey's talking about Scott Pruitt and being able to slow his heartbeat down, bring his body temperature down. He sounds like Yoda in the car out there. What's Scott been doing?
You know, Scott works out really hard. I mean, Scott works out, I mean, he's the ultimate professional. I mean, he works out 6 days a week, you know, and you can't ask for any better fitness from a guy. And, you know, that's what we need in this series, you know. I mean, we need guys that are fit, that you understand they need to be in a car for a long time. Right now, we're just kind of upset with the officials not waving the move over flag. If this was any other race, they'd be trying to get us, the guys out in front of the leader, you know, and we're the leader, and the 59 and 99 are slowing us up. We're running low 43s until we catch them, and then we go to the 44s, and they aren't getting the point. You know, the move over flag should be used.
Is Scott at all concerned about the heat today, or has he just got his eye on the prize?
No, our cockpit temperature is actually really good. I mean, we work really hard on that. The guys are really fit, and we have no problem. We don't run no cool suit. We're pretty proud of that. We work really hard on that.
Well, Dorsey, you've got to feel pretty good. If Scott can do it, maybe you can get back out there.
He's tougher than me, man. I gave up to all that stuff.
Well, it is the attention to detail that makes the difference, and that's why guys like Ganassi and the whole group there have so much success.
Pruitt trying to work his way through traffic. He did set the fastest lap of the race not that long ago on lap 147 at a 1 minute 43.1. He is on a mission. We're back at the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen, and take a look at Charles Espenlaub inside the cockpit of the Hypersport number 40 Mazda.
Look at the water pouring out from underneath the helmet. He's pressing the drink tube and just letting it spray him to cool him down.
It's fine.
Looks like a Monty Python.
They are trying to stay cool any way they can. It has been a hard day's work for the drivers here today. We go from one car to another. This is inside the cockpit with Brazilian Oswaldo Negri Jr., a race winner in Grand Am Daytona Prototype Series competition. He's in 4th place in the championship at the moment, and he and teammate Mark Patterson have had a very productive day. He's currently 4th in this race as well. On board with Jim Matthews in the 91 Riley Matthews Pontiac powered machine, and an eventful race for Jim. He's really been proud of the effort of how he's been driving this year with his coach Barry Waddell and bringing a clean car back to Mark Goosens to take it on, teamed with Marcel Tiemann this weekend as well, but had a spin, an uncharacteristic spin for this year for Jim, because he's been doing some really heads-up driving this year. He'll be down on himself for that, but nonetheless, still battling on, and that 91 car is inside the top 15, which means they'll still score 16 championship points. And remember, they're in 2nd at the moment. Finally, here comes the 76 of Ricardo Zonta. It seemed an eternity this car was out there. Chris Neville is standing by.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a quick stop too. Just fuel, and this team really needed this fuel, this pit stop to happen here. So it looks like it's going to be a real quick stop. Zonta in and out, but he's going to lose a lot of positions out there. This team just isn't seeming to catch on with that strategy that you got to come in right when that last fuel window opens, and they really got caught out by all the other teams and that caution we just had just a little bit ago.
Again, I mean, mean, you've got so much experience there on the pit wall with Jeff Hazel and the engineer David Brown, but I don't understand this one, Dorsey. Why didn't you take tires and give him the strongest car possible going back to green? If you got another yellow, if he closed out, he'd have fresh tires. A lot of these other guys got, you know, 17 to 20 laps on their rubber.
I think Jeff Hazel did that just to throw us off again. I don't know. He won't ever tell you the truth, but I agree with you, Calvin. Should have had rubber.
All right, we'll squeeze another quick break in here, so when we come back, we can go racing. Bring you all the action live from Watkins Glen. Do you remember right at the top of the broadcast, we said 3 of the past 4 years, the winners of this race, the 6 Hours of the Glen, have gone on to clinch the championship. That was the case for the Ganassi team. In 2004, Scott Pruitt and Mad Max Pappas went to victory lane here at the Glen. Yes, what a day it was for the Ganassi squad. Winning, and Pruitt is trying to do it again. Is that an omen? Will he be champion again this year along with his young Mexican teammate Memo Rojas? A long way to go in this championship. Remember, this is only round 6 for the Daytona prototypes in a 14-round championship. The next stop on the calendar for the Daytona prototype cars and GT cars, 2 weeks' time at Mid-Ohio. Still under caution if you're just joining us. This has been an eventful day, an eventful race, but there has been some tremendous scraps, some good passing, some heads-up driving. We've had accidents, we've had fires, we've had strategical errors, we've had strategical pluses. A little bit of everything here at Watkins Glen, playing out on this historic race course. And then there's a new name in the GT horizon, Jeff Siegel for Speed Source in the Mazda. Normally we're always talking about the Castrol Syntex number 70 of Sylvain Tremblay, Dave Haskell and Nick Ham. Well, today it's the sister car. The 69 has stolen the headlines here at Watkins Glen.
And the reason that the 70 car is a little bit further back, we weren't on the air, but the 70 car had a problem with the alternator. A wire had come loose, and you have to wonder if that's a subsequence of what happened in the morning warm-up of that car.
That wouldn't surprise me, Calvin. That was a big crash they had in that warm-up. They had to pull the whole front of the car apart to work on it. They might have had to take the alternator off to get access to some of the stuff. But in the event, I mean, a big wreck like that, just to have a wire pop off wouldn't surprise me either.
Right.
Just the fact that they got the car together in time for the race is a miracle, to be honest about it.
We are under our 9th full course caution, and coincidentally, that's exactly how many cautions we had a year ago here at Watkins Glen. Field compress, and we're looking down the road at getting going again with less than 20 minutes left in what has been a very long day's work.
This is going to be wild, Calvin. 18 minutes. It'd be more like a 16-minute sprint race or something.
So Zonta mired in the pack there. He's got a lot of work to do. He needs to catch a break. They need another yellow, I believe.
And look at Darren Law just sticking to the back of Scott Pruitt. He is not going to let the 01 get away, get any kind of advantage. Remember, Scott Pruitt was an IndyCar driver. He knows what restarts is all about. Go with him, Darren, if you've got any chance, because the green is about to fly here at Watkins Glen. And don't discount Oswaldo Negri either. Green flies. We go back to racing for the final 17.5 minutes.
Top 3 cars get defensive.
Look at him wiggling around, Dorsey.
Yeah, he went in there deep and it got loose on him.
Angelelli looked very strong there, down into 1. Can he make a move on Negri? Thinks about it.
Ian James was looking at Angelelli.
Now the question is, who's got their tires scrubbed in the best? Does anybody got a problem with tires at this point?
Pruitt is skating away.
James was loose there. Can Wilkins take advantage?
Up into the inner loop for the first time on this restart. Darren Law takes the defensive line. Negri has a good look. Angelelli, Ian James, Mark Wilkins, and then the 09 machine of Guy Cosmo. He's a few positions back. He's not in the right order. He's not mixing it with these guys for position.
And this is what Pruitt wants to see, because every time that they have to go defensive and they move to the inside, they take the radius away on the entry to the corner, making them slower than he is.
The 77 of Memo Gidley trying to make position, trying to make ground. The all-yellow Kodak Dallara. Keep your eyes on that one. Trying to get by Guy Cosmo first up.
They made a critical error in letting Scott get that far ahead. Scott Pruitt, you don't give that much of an advantage to, because he will not make a mistake.
Great clean restart by Pruitt. He's off and away. He's got that margin. He can run his own line. There you see James again, really threshold braking there. The rear is twitching on him. He's given it 1,000,000% here today.
Now Darren Law's broken free into the 2nd place. He can now start concentrating on running clean laps, try to run down Scott Pruitt with speed.
4 different power plants in the top 4 positions. Lexus, Porsche, Ford and Pontiac. All Riley chassis cars. but great variety in their power plants. Ian James in the 6, pushing hard.
9 more left, 16 minutes, 16 minutes. Push forward, you got about a 2-car, 3-car gap.
Here
Go
comes
forward.
Wilkins on Ian James. This is where he made the move earlier. He's not close enough this time round.
What a battle they're having.
I felt very proud of young Mark Wilkins earlier today in this race where he was trying to force a move on Ricardo Zonta. It was not that long ago when Mark Wilkins would have been sitting at his home in Toronto, Canada, watching Ricardo Zonta in Formula One. And then here is this young man now mixing it with him in sports car racing.
Wilkins again tries to the inside, but he's making a mistake right there, Calvin. He's popping out too early. He's making his intentions known to Ian James. He needs to tuck up into that draft and do it at the very last minute like we saw Max the Axe do.
He did, because Ian's being defensive when he sees someone coming, but boy, the confidence for Wilkins is growing week to week. He talked about it 3 races ago. I need to be more aggressive. We have the car. I have the speed. I've got to make it happen now.
Oh, we've got drama here. Drama here. That's one of the Autometrics Porsches.
Lone left rear tire, and he will not be able to go back onto the racetrack at any kind of speed with that tire.
That is Ian Boss, I believe, in that car, in the 14, up against the barrier. 14 and 3/4 minutes remaining.
Wilkins thinks about it again. He's not close enough on James this time. James is closed up on Angelelli in the 10 SunTrust machine.
He needs to be completely, I mean, within just right in the back of that car to make any kind of move. Pulling out early just makes Ian go defensive. It slows the whole train up.
6 Rileys at the front, but 2 of them have the older bodywork, the 10 machine, and also the 58, still running the old bodywork. Everyone else in this pack has the new updated Riley bodywork.
Let's do a time check. A difference between first and second. It's 1.6 seconds between Scott Pruitt and Darren Law with 14 minutes to go. Pruitt is looking at victory again. It will be number 4 if he can stay where he is.
Pruitt in clean air. There's no disrupted air around him. His car will be working at 100% efficiency. Now you have to know that when Darren Law gets closer to him as they enter this yellow zone, he's going to have some aero buffeting off the back of Pruitt's car.
And remember, Cal, you mentioned too about the older bodywork on some of these Rileys. The 58 still has the older bodywork from Riley Technologies, and they're saying, well, we're still making gains. We don't feel there's a reason to switch. If we can run at the front, we're going to stay and keep trying to develop this older stuff.
You see that GT car off to the side of the road. Hopefully that won't be a factor here on Corsi Yellow. I think he was in a pretty safe position initially. Mike Colucci from Brumo said one of the advantages of running the old bodywork, some of the teams are getting rid of their old stuff. You can buy it for about 25 cents on the dollar.
That's a good, cheap way to go.
One team we haven't mentioned today, and they've been plagued by a few problems, and that is the Lexus-powered Riley of Southern Motorsports, Shane Lewis and Bill Lester. They are not really up in the action. They're running 17th in class at the moment and well down the order overall. Bill Lester behind the wheel at the moment, still soldiering on.
See some of that rubber flying there from the 58 machine. They create like these big snowballs of black rubber, and eventually it fires it out through the fender.
Oz Negri in 3rd. Podium would be a wonderful way to bounce back from frustration at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. It incidentally would be the 2nd podium in 6 races for the number 60 Mike Shank Racing Ford, heading to their home race next up in Ohio. But Pruitt is the man to beat yet again. Have you been a couch potato today? I hope so. It's been a good day to be watching speed. From here, our first show from Watkins Glen. Then we went away to Formula One qualifying. We're coming towards the end of our 2nd show here from Watkins Glen, but coming up next, a reminder, NASCAR Sprint Cup final practice. Great day's viewing for a Saturday here on Speed. The 77 Kodak Dallara of Mamo Gidley has been very entertaining, particularly while we're in the break. Check this out, down into turn 1.
Gets a run on Ian James. This all looks good, but he can't slow the car up enough. Ian knows it, runs inside. But not only does he get that position lost, look, Mark Wilkins is going to take away one too.
Tried to defend there, just got in really deep, no exit speed, and was pounced on. Ned earlier made a great move on Wilkins as well. He, in fact, set a lap time of 43.8 faster than Pruitt, who's up front.
I bet you that's not over with yet. I kind of think Memo's got something left in him. Now, there's a mistake that Mark Wilkins keeps making. He keeps popping out too early to make a pass and losing his entry speed in the corner. As a result of that now, Mamo Gidley's going to be right on his gearbox going up the straightaway, and will probably try to pass him somewhere up there toward the inner loop. And he's done that almost every time. He keeps feinting to the inside.
There he goes. He's got a good run. These are pretty much identical machines. New Riley's with the body work and Ford Power.
Remember, these were the two teams, Mike Shank Racing and AIM Autosport, that made the switch from Lexus Power to Ford Power this year, and at the same time switched to the updated Riley bodywork. Dorsey, you talk about, you say that Mark Wilkins has made an error there, but that's just racecraft. That comes with time. He's obviously on the learning curve still.
He is. He needs to stay up underneath the car in front of him until he's there at the very last minute, then do the pop out. Look at this, just like this.
Did Angelelli have a problem there? Because he dropped back considerably on Oswaldo Negri and fell back into the clutches of Ian James.
GT traffic in the middle of that. That caused an issue.
Here comes Gidley. Gidley's going to get it because that same deal again. Up the inside comes Memo. He'll take that position back and he'll start to work on Ian James.
Superb run out of the boot. The Kodak car is coming. Closing stages, 7.5 minutes left to run. Pruitt boasts an almost 3-second advantage over Darren Law. However, it will be a podium for Darren Law and Brumos Racing and David Donahue, which will be a breath of fresh air. What have you got, Chris?
Well, guys, I think what you might be seeing with the 10 car right now is a very tired and hot Max Angelelli. We've seen it before with him having a hard time dealing with the heat, and the team spending these last 10 laps really talking him down each lap. Max, the race is almost over. You got to keep focused in there, man. It's almost over.
And guess what? He's going to have company very, very soon. Memo Gidley is on the move. First it was Mark Wilkins, now Ian James. He tried that several laps ago and it didn't stick. It did this time though.
Yeah, did you see what he did that time when he made the pass? He slammed the brakes on. He said, you're not going to come up the inside this time.
He really controlled his mid-corner speed there very well. So he learned from the earlier move that didn't work. Now he's back up into that great position, and Max the Axe is next on his agenda. And we saw Angelelli, the car really squirming as he's trying to put the power on earlier in this lap. So he's really feeling it in terms of the tires going away a little bit. And certainly he'll be very fatigued at this stage of the race. A long stint for Max Angelelli.
What a showing for the Blue Oval boys, for the Ford-powered teams. 3 in a row here. Doran Racing, Mike Shank Racing, and AIM Autosport.
And here comes Gidley. Boy, he's got him in his sights. Once you can see that gap close, when you're driving, you see I'm getting closer, You get like hero time, you know. I'm going to get you.
Angelelli ran wide. That's why the dust is flying. That'll be motivation for Memo Gidley. Here I come. Is a podium too far away for Gidley? Is that distance between he and Oswaldo Negri too far with the remaining laps? There's approximately 4 to go.
Angelelli's not going to give it up easy. We've seen him defend ferociously in this event. He doesn't want to give it away. He realized this whole team has worked tirelessly over the last couple of weeks to try and be here. He's going to try and give it his maximum attention here in these final few laps.
Let's check in with GT, because Jeff Siegel is poised for his maiden Grand Am Rolex GT win. We mentioned at Lime Rock 2 weeks ago, he notched up his first professional victory in Coney Challenge Racing, which was a real high point for the youngster. This is a whole different world.
That car, not a mark on it, a complete clean run. This team did a great job. Second place, Robin Liddell. That's the 57 car.
Well, this is a good battle between the two Pontiac teams here, Banner and Stevenson. Right now, Robin Liddell up front. We saw him getting doused with water by Mike Johnson during his final pit stop. He's feeling the heat. These front engine cars, Dorsey, they really melt everything. Your feet are on fire. All that heat transfers through the firewall onto the pedals. It's tough.
As you know, Calvin, you can burn your toes right off your heel, side of your leg. It's very uncomfortable.
Behind these two cars is the 72 of Lawson Archenbach, and then the 27 from O'Connell Racing of Kevin Roush, and we can't heap enough praise on those guys. We're used to seeing the more high-profile teams dominate, but it's always great when you see one of the smaller, less recognized, less well-known teams achieve a top 5 result. So well done to those boys if they can hang on and finish there in that 5th position in class.
It's a great battle for second right there. Paul Edwards really putting the pressure on right now, Robin Liddell.
Identical lap times by Liddell and Edwards on that last lap. 1:53.8. The leader, Siegel, did a 1:53.6.
Lawson Archenbach and Tim Lewis Jr. will match their best result of this year, and that is 4th. If Lawson can remain where he is in the 72 machine. Time running out, less than 4 minutes to run in this 6-hour endurance classic. The Sahlen, 6 hours at the Glen. Pruitt is winding down. Remember, if you've just joined us, you wouldn't have heard this, but he has been an Ironman today, Scott Pruitt. By the time he finishes this race, he will have been in that Lexus-powered Riley just shy of 3 hours. That is a massive effort.
What a year Chip Ganassi Racing are having. They've won 6 of the 11 races in both IRL and Grand Am combined. Amazing stuff.
And Dixon on the pole again, too.
And look at Gidley. He's got a big run coming on him, on Max Angelelli. He's going to try to take him in the brake zone up here. Max, we know, is really hot, really tired. He's been in the car a long time. Goes defensive.
He looks in his rearview mirror. He says, I used to have one of those cars.
Have one next week. Uh-oh, 23 car is spun. Ruby Tuesday's brand new Crawford.
Drama there for Billy Oberlin, running in 14th place in Daytona Prototype in that updated Crawford.
Oh, look at Gidley.
Oh, that's a way to make a move. And they're right there with Oswaldo Negri. Contact there between Angelelli. He muscles Negri wide.
He pushes him way out. He's got that position.
Watch for Gidley. He'll be the recipient of this, all that pushing around. He'll try to get up in the inside. There's a car there. No way to do it. Lap car in the way.
They come through that area where Bill Aublin is stranded. Now Gidley, Ian James is in the mix as well. It is on with the last 2.5 minutes to go. All of a sudden, Angelelli has put the SunTrust car on the podium.
Boy, he came on fire there. What a result it would be for that whole team. Negri finished 4th here last year. Can he hang on to it now? Looks like he's been shoved off the podium, literally.
Questions of physical fatigue from within the cockpit of Max Angelelli. Wow, he looks fresh now. Fresh and aggressive.
It woke him up, no doubt about that. The adrenaline got in there, and he's now back on song.
That was some wild driving, exciting driving in the closing stages. Running out of laps, running out of minutes, running out of time here at Watkins Glen.
I think we'll see 2 more laps. I think the leader will get around possibly before we run out of that 6 hours. That'll mean everyone will need to do an extra lap. So that'll give a chance for Gidley to maybe make this move on Negri.
Best result of the season if Mamo Gidley can stay where he is. A top 5 result will be wonderful. Here is our race leader. There's the gap back. You see the white prototype in the middle of the GT cars. That's Darren Law. He's in 2nd. And there's the split back to the SunTrust Pontiac Riley of Angelelli in 3rd.
Look at Wilkins looking down the inside again, Dorsey.
Yeah, I tell you what, now lap traffic can really play this thing out. Scott Pruitt, pretty good lead over Darren Law for sure, which has got a pretty good lead over these guys. But one group of lap traffic cars can take that all away.
Everything changes. Great performance by Gidley. He looked really tired when he got out of this race car a couple of hours ago, but he's on fire right now. But what a move by Angelelli here on the previous lap to get that position away from Negri.
Lexus has a very impressive record in Daytona Prototype endurance racing, whether it be here at the 6 hours of the Glen, the Rolex 24, whatever you like. They're about to extend that and help themselves in the manufacturer's chase as well. Closing laps here at Watkins Glen. Scott Pruitt, Mamo Rojas, and the Telmex Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates organisation poised for their 4th victory of the 08 season.
These guys all in heavy traffic. You see Max Angelelli making it clear around the Porsche. Here comes Oz. Gidley right with him.
Think about this. We're coming to the end of a 6-hour race. The white flag flies. Pruitt begins the last 3.4 miles.
There's Law. He looks safe. Angelelli, in fact, looks safe. I think this is where the positions may change, right in this batch here.
Oh, and that Porsche now he stays out wide. Good.
Gidley, can he get a run up through the S's here? 2 or 3 car lengths between all of the cars here, battling for position 4th through 7th.
Best passing opportunity right up ahead here.
Is anyone close enough to make a move? I don't think so. Into the inner loop. Traffic up ahead. Look in the background. Alex Gurney recovered. He got back on that lead lap. Boy, if he had a few more laps, he's got a fast race car right now. Alex Gurney.
8th position overall. It worked on that last restart, didn't it? Got by Zonta quick, smart, and has made the most of it. Coming around and working his way through.
Gurney got killed by the fact that Zonta stayed out.
Half a lap away from the checkered flag. None of these cars are close enough to mount of attack yet.
Bill Aublin is out of the Ruby Tuesday Championship race in Crawford. He knows the race is over. It's not the positive start they would like with that updated bodywork, but hey, we've got a long way to go in this championship. The race is still on, though, for the minor positions. Oswaldo Negri, Mamo Gidley, Ian James and Mark Wilkins. Meanwhile, up front, Pruitt is on his way to another victory. What a display. What a driving display. What a display of stamina from Scott Pruitt. Quite remarkable. And here he is to win his second 6 hours of the Glen in Daytona Prototypes. The Ganassi boys do it again at Watkins Glen, victorious in the Sahlen 6 hour.
Fantastic performance by this whole team. But you got to hand it to Scott Pruitt, Dorsey. What a job.
He will be tired, but also the Brumos Porsche guys back on the podium, second place.
And that one there is for Bob Snodgrass in particular, and Mike Colucci. Wonderful performance, and first time winner in Grand Am Rolex GT competition. He's got half a lap left to run. Jeff Siegel, Emil Asentato and Nick Longy will go to victory lane in GT for Speed Source. It'll be the second win for the Mazda RX-8, the second win for Speed Source Engineering.
This car has looked remarkable all weekend long, taking the pole position, a great run. Made a little bit of a strategy faux pas earlier in the event, but they've recovered. You can do it when you got a fast race car.
Unfortunately, he's still got a half a lap to go, so we might not want to say anything yet. He's got to get back to the start-finish line.
Well done to Timmy Keane, Mike O'Gara, Ken Brooks, all up there on the pit box, who call the shots for this 01 Telmex Lexus Riley. Pruitt and Rojas, a remarkable performance today. Remember, this car started from pit lane, did not get a good qualifying run. It and the 99 chose to start from the lane and work their way through. Superior strategy, great endurance, heads up driving, and the final sequence of corners for young Jeff Siegel. It's appropriate that he qualified the car and that he will see the checkered flag. Always special in a young driver's career when you get that first significant victory, and that's what it is here today at this iconic sports car race. Jeff Siegel goes to victory lane in Grand Am Rolex competition for the very first time. Well done, young man, and well done to Nick Longy and Emil Asentato. After frustration with the sister car and the team principal today, that is a sweetener. Wonderful performance.
70 car, in fact, finished 8th, so good points, good recovery after the accident this morning and then the electrical glitch.
Look at this, guys. Off the racetrack, he's going to do some donuts. Yeah. He's going to have some fun. That's on the outside of turn 1.
He's seen his motor racing heroes do it in open wheelers and NASCAR. Now he's victorious. He wants to do it. Maybe needs a little bit of practice at it, though. It's the right way to get practice at it. As a driver, there's nothing better than visiting victory lane, and that's what Ganassi have done right here at the 6 hours of the Glen. Let's join them in their celebrations with Chris Neville.
Well, down here at the Telmex 01, these guys going for their 4th win of the year. Scott, amazing performance. You were in the car almost 3 hours that last stint, and you're standing up.
Yeah, no, it's actually pretty good. The car was very good. The Telmex guys did a great job. Ganassi guys, great job on pit stops. Hello to my family at home. We called it right. We called it smart. We did pull a wicker about halfway through. We just helped balance the car out, and it was just fast. I mean, Lexus, again, gave us a great engine. Pirelli, again, the tires were real consistent. I was real pleased with them, and awesome job. Number 4, baby.
Well, the team started from pit lane today, so, Mammy, you had a hard middle stint there. You had to make sure Scott had something for the end of the race.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. The conditions were difficult out there. I think the change that Scott talked about will help us, but I'm really proud of him. I mean, staying 3 hours in this long race was a really, really tough thing to do, and, well, we got it, and it was a good team effort. Thanks to the team, and Scott, great job.
I think a lot of these teams were hoping to chip away at the lead. These guys having the championship, but it didn't happen today.
Yeah, what a dominant performance from Rojas and Pruitt. As we take you to the results, and a podium for the 58 of Donahue and Law. Wow, that will put some wind in their sails and lift the morale of the team, and they're heading in the right direction. Best result of the season for those boys, and so too the 10. It's been a long time between podiums for Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing. And then the 60 of Patterson Negri, great effort by both those boys. And the 77 is also a season high result, first top 5 of 2008. Have a look at those guys. Great comeback drive at the end by Fogarty and Gurney as we work our way all the way through to the competitors in the Daytona prototype class who experienced some adversity and frustration here today. Let's talk SunTrust. Let's talk Wayne Taylor Racing with Brian Till.
Max Angelelli being tended to right now, and you talk about a hard drive and never give up. I think that's really kind of the motto of this entire team, and especially the drive you put in today, Max.
It's not only me, it's all the SunTrust Racing guys, Pontiac, Toshiba, everybody behind us. I'm just amazed. Miracle Sahlen, our new sponsor this year, they all here. I just dedicate this to them. They deserve. I did just 10%, they did everything.
It was a fantastic job by this entire team. The last time they were on the podium, you talk about not giving up, it was here last year, so no quit in this SunTrust team.
Look at that, on the verge of exhaustion. Max Angelelli is still coherent enough to acknowledge the team's wonderful supporters. We take you to the points and we highlight the fact that just how important and valuable today was to Rojas and Pruitt in their quest for a championship. They had a 19-point advantage coming in. They have stretched that massively to 36. That is more than a full round win. You get 35 points for victory. Gurney and Fogarty there, and then Patterson and Negri still locked in that same position. And a great day for the second Mike Shank Racing crew of Ian James and John Pugh. Very, very productive. More from the lane. Here's Chris.
Well, we've seen the 58 show so much speed this year. 2 pole positions, but they just couldn't come away with a podium. Last race, a top 5. But how much does it mean to this team to get a second place at a track that means so much to Brumos?
All I can say, Chris, is it's about time. We've been there all year. David had a killer stint. The team did a great job. We've got doctors here helping us, Dr. John, to keep us dealing with the heat. Everything just came together. It was really good.
Well, 2 snake-bit teams get 2 top 3s.
Awesome performance, yeah. Dr. John Gledys does a wonderful job with Brumos Racing. He'll help rehydrate those 2 wonderful drivers, and they'll be delighted tonight to be back on the podium. More after the break. We are wrapping things up here at Watkins Glen. It's been a long day, but an enjoyable day. The Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen, this historic sports car race. More from pit lane.
Well, the Speed Source team gets to celebrate again. This time it's the 69, Emil Asentado, Nick Longi, and Jeff Siegel. Emil, you guys had a great run in Mexico. When you look down the line, do you see this victory coming sometime this year?
We've been knocking on the door now for quite a few races and just never finished right, but today it happened. Great deal, great team, great support from Speed Source. Marty, our crew chief, did a great job. Jeff, Nick, what great drives they had today, just a super day.
And I know, Nick, for you, you're in and out of the car throughout the season, but you came back at the right time.
For once, my timing is good, and it was fantastic to be with these guys, with Emil and Jeff just drove his heart out, and the team really gave us this. The car was perfect from start to finish. I just don't know what else to say. It was a fantastic day.
And Jeff, you and I talked at the beginning, and we talked about that victory in Coney Challenge just a couple of weeks ago, and you said, I'm not sure we're going to have enough to win today. We got the pole, but I'm not sure we can find victory. What changed your mind, and when did it change?
It changed about 5 seconds after I passed the checkered flag. I didn't believe it. I mean, towards the end, I ran over some debris in the S's, and I thought that was it. I thought we were going to have a punctured tire, but the car held together. The car was phenomenal. The pit stops were awesome. Marty, Mikkel, the whole team, everything was flawless. Our strategist, Jerry, couldn't have done it without him, and I'm just really psyched to be here.
Congratulations, guys.
We go to the results for GT. We've handled Daytona prototypes. Now let's put the spotlight on the GT cars. And another solid result behind our victors for Davis, Andrew Davis, Robin Liddell, and then the championship leaders. And a season best equaling result for the Auto House team of Tim Lewis Jr. and Lawson Aschenbach. And a great result for Kevin O'Connell and Kevin Roush from O'Connell Racing. Top Porsche finisher in the top 5 in class. And that shouldn't go without note. That's an awesome performance. More from the podium getters. Here's Chris.
Well, the Stevenson group went down 2 laps at Lime Rock and fought back for a podium this weekend. They went down a lap early, and Robin, you kept your nose in it all day, and you come away with 2nd place.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We had a very hard race, even harder than Lime Rock, and I thought that was a tough race, but, I drove 2 hours, 20 minutes in the end, and we had no drinks bottle to speak of. I was trying to suck some water out of the drink, but it was very hot and just really tired. I'll be all right in 10 minutes, but right now I'm just trying to rehydrate. I'm very worn out. But the car was excellent. The tires performed very well for us. I know some people had problems with the tires, but we felt happy with the tires, and the car was consistent throughout. So thanks to Stevenson, all the guys, Brian, Mark, Financial. It was a good day for us.
Great run today, guys.
Thank you.
And you can hear it in Robin's speech and his face. It tells the story, doesn't it? He gave it his all. Well, just like in the Daytona prototype class, in GT, our championship leaders have extended that margin. There's only 1 point difference in it, a 36-point margin in DP, a 35-point margin between the Pontiac boys of Collins and Edwards over the Mazda racers, Nick Ham and Sylvain Tremblay. That is equivalent to a full race win. And then Spencer Pumpelly, Tim George have been overtaken. It was a very hard day for them today. Hard to swallow, but they will bounce back, the TRG boys. Let's talk more about Banner Racing. Here's Brian.
Well, Paul Edwards and Kelly Collins. Paul, it might not have been another victory, but you guys holding on to that championship points lead, and that's what's important.
Yeah, exactly. We gained a lot of points today in the big picture. You know, we I don't know how many points we're ahead now, but it's always fun to see that when a race day goes like today. But no, with 100 pounds, you know, with 100 pounds on the car, we're super happy with the result. And it was my mistake. We didn't finish second today, but really happy with third. And thanks to Banner and Pontiac. Thank you.
They hold on to that championship points lead, guys, and there's still a lot of season left to go.
Certainly is. Thanks, Brian. We go to the SunTrust Improve Your Position Award winners, and in Daytona Prototype, it was our overall winners. Remember, they didn't get a good run in qualifying. They started 16th and finished first. And then our top Porsche finishers, O'Connell Racing, 17th to 5th. Well done, boys. Calvin, final thoughts.
Well, Pruitt, just remarkable that stint he did at the end. Further frustration for the 99 team. When are they going to get a break, Dorsey?
I'll tell you what, sometimes your will to win outdoes all the adversity. Both winners today showed that. Scott Pruitt did a heck of a job.
The MCO Gears Classic is next on the calendar. 2 weeks' time. Remember, we're off to the Le Mans 24-hour next week and then to Mid-Ohio. We congratulate our winners and our championship leaders. They're setting the bar high in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series.